Hey everyone, before we jump into today's episode, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Open Water. As a chef and restaurant owner, I know how important it is not only to serve amazing food, but also take care of our planet. Open Water makes that easy with their eco-friendly bottled water packaged in 100% recyclable aluminum bottles, helping to reduce the plastic waste. What's even cooler? Open Water is a female-owned company leading the way in sustainability, something we can all get behind. And here's the best part. They're giving our listeners 20% off. Just use promo code INTHEWEEDS at checkout. So whether you're hydrating your team or stocking up for your restaurant, make the switch to Open Water. Delicious water, a healthier planet, and great discount. Cheers to that. All right, I'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsors, Saltwerk. You can check them out at saltwerk.com. You ever wonder what a pinch of Iceland would taste like? Well, you have it now in the most sustainable, flaky sea salt in the world. I've actually traveled to Iceland. Their geothermal powered island is beautiful. There's just a sense of freshness in the air over there, and it translates to this salt. I love this salt. It's delicious. It's the most sustainable. Again, you can buy just the normal flaky sea salt, but they also have infused salts, which I've been using at home lately a lot. They have this birch smoked sea salt that I love using with seafood. They have the lava salt, which is super black and cool looking. It's got a certain different type of taste to it. They have the Arctic thyme salt, which I use for my pickling liquids. And again, guys, just don't think of salt as something to season post recipe. You can use all these salts in the recipe alone. At We The Pizza, we use their flaky sea salt in our dough preparation. And they have this seaweed salt that I just used at an event that I loved at the Indy 500. I made a plant-based crab cake, and I was looking for a little bit more of that ocean flavor. Guess what I used? Saltwerk's seaweed salt gave me just that ocean flavor that I needed for my plant-based crab cake. It was a hit. Guys, if you want to use my promo code, you can. It's at In The Weeds Pod. You can use it on their website. You'll get a 20% discount on all their items. Stock up. This salt is amazing. And again, it is powered 100% by geothermal energy, the most sustainable sea salt on the market. You're welcome. Get yours. No Salt Bay in the house, just Saltwerk. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the In the Weeds podcast, where we dive deep into the craziness of the restaurant industry and so much more. We discuss food, beverage, even food policy issues. Basically, if you love to eat and drink and are curious about this industry, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Spike Mendelsohn, a recovering celebrity chef, a long-life restaurant rat. From washing dishes in my family's businesses to cooking at Michelin star restaurants, competing in reality cooking competitions, and serving as an advocate for food policy issues, my life is always in the weeds. We're broadcasting live from the District of Columbia, our nation's capital. On today's episode, we're joined by my friend, Chef Doron Petersan, founder and owner of the wildly popular Sticky Fingers Bakery in Washington, D.C. Let's get sticky with it. How we doing?
How are you?
What do you think?
Look at that crowd in the background. They're just ready for
They're
us.
just going. You want to hear it again?
Oh my God.
They're just. Let me make it louder. Oh,
No,
wow!
no.
Wow!
No.
They really.
Fine.
What's up?
Hi.
How you doing? Welcome to In the Weeds.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know where to start.
Yeah, there's so many places. I mean, like, listen, I think we have met in the past, but we haven't really connected.
No, we've ran past each other
We
at
ran,
least
yeah,
500
yeah.
times.
You're good friends with my sister though, Micheline, right?
I love that lady.
She's who doesn't love that lady?
I don't know.
There's
that's
not many.
like a line.
It's hard to be her brother and have to keep up with that.
I'm sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure. And then we've run in the same circles with, I believe, your wife.
That's right. That's right. You do? Do you? Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh.
Friends with some of her old friends.
Oh, I didn't quite know that actually.
Yeah.
My wife, Cody Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
Is that the right wife we're talking about?
I believe so.
Okay.
One of them. There's at least, 5?
Yeah.
But that's why you have to be nice to everybody in DC, because it's so small.
It's so
and
small.
eventually you're going to end up face to face.
It comes back at you, like just like us.
Yeah, we were so nice to each other. We were very nice.
We
to
were,
each other.
right?
Yeah.
I was about to say I didn't do anything bad, right?
Yeah. No, not at all. I think the first time I met you was the first time I met your mom, and I was running around the city trying to sell my brownies.
Yes.
And then your dad took me for a tour, I believe, and explained to me why the management system that he created for the restaurants was really good, and gave me some really great advice that had to do with plum tomatoes.
Oh, really? My father. There is no management system at the Sunny Side Group. It's just him.
Oh,
it's
good to
really
know.
No, my father is great. He's it's been great. You know what? I am. My intro says I'm a restaurant rat, but I truly am. I mean, I grew up in the restaurant industry.
I think you told me that.
Yeah, and then my father watching my father and mother, my sister and I always call them the dynamic duo, because they're just they both come at it from different perspectives and know each other's lane, but they've really been able to do well together. They're just killing it.
That's amazing.
But it's not about them, it's about you right now.
It is.
Let's talk about you.
I don't work with my husband. He does not work in the business.
Sometimes that's good too, by the way. We have some waters here if you need. We also have I brought you some just iced tea.
Love it. My favorite.
We got raspberry. I don't know if you've had these, by the way. These are new.
I haven't had the cans.
Yeah, exactly. You haven't had the cans. That's passion and pineapple, lemon and raspberry. Feel free. They're all for you.
Thank you.
I have a gift bag later for you too. So,
Ooh.
but tell me, I'm excited about to have you here. First, because you're a woman, which is great, obviously, and the industry is dominated by males, and it's nice just and as you know my background, my mother, my sister,
You've been surrounded by women your whole
my
life,
whole
telling
life,
you what to do.
exactly, and it's the only reason I'm somewhat successful, right? So, but and you're also vegan. I want to dig into that a little bit. I mean, you probably know my a little bit of my background with Plant Burger.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a vegan. My wife is. But where did you get started? Like, why have you always been into this industry? Like, did you go to college for something else? Did you even go to college?
Yeah, so I have a crazy winding road. We're going to need another 3 hours. But how I became vegan, working in the industry and going to school, all of those things have taken place somewhere along the way in my life. Since I was 15 years old, I started working in the industry. Front of the house, of course, and always wanted to go back in the house, but that's really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm 51.
Yeah.
So.
Ooh, 51. You don't look a day over 34.
Perfect answer.
Okay.
When I'm like giving you all my.
Wow, I cannot believe.
I graduated
Seriously,
high school in
we need all the
1991.
we need all the wellness tips afterwards.
Okay.
And if it's all just veganism, then everyone in this room should go straight vegan.
Well, I think it also has to do with being Jewish and Italian.
Ooh.
So I just, I got some good genes in there somewhere. I'm sure the vegan doesn't hurt. I imagine that I would look a lot younger if I hadn't worked in the industry.
Yeah.
If I had just gone into like sneaker sales.
Yeah.
But that's not what I did. So I've been, busting my butt, standing on my feet since I was 15 years old.
But so where are you from?
I'm originally from New York, over New York.
New Yorker.
Yeah.
All over New York.
Yeah.
And you grew up in a household that was into food, or?
Somewhat, yeah. Upstate New York, Hudson Valley in the 70s and 80s. So
Okay.
it was super hippy dippy, and I hated it. I hated anything that had anything to do with health food or the health food phenomenon or anything that was grown in your backyard or anything that I couldn't take out of plastic. When you grow up like that, like we had the backyard farm, right? Or not farm, but we had the backyard just garden, and we ate everything that we grew. And then if we grew too much, we gave it to our friends. If our friends grew too much, gave it to us, right?
Oh, wow.
And it was, this is when I was much younger. So when we had meat, it was local butchers. And when I was about 10 years old, we moved to Queens we lived in a kind of rural area in New York. And then I moved to Queens, and that was like grocery store food, right?
Right.
And I was psyched. I loved it. And
You were pumped up for that because you were so tired of the farm.
Oh yeah, it's just like just growing up in that. I mean, we shopped for co-ops. Like everything was in a bulk bag. Like it was very much the hippie movement, and I was.
You didn't know how cool you were. Look at today. Everyone's
know.
trying to strive. Everyone wants to live on a farm now. You have all these like fake
Everybody.
farm communities with gardens.
And I'm like, there's snakes and there's bugs and it's really dirty. And you still have to go and pick things when it's raining. I mean, we had a small backyard, right? It wasn't like we had a farm, but we would go to the farm and we would go and pick out meat, right? That was had been one of those cows that we just walked past.
Yeah.
And that was my experience growing up. And then went to high school outside of Albany, went to junior high in Albany, didn't know what I wanted to do, moved back to New York, worked in the industry, hopped around restaurants. So I was in the restaurant industry in New York in the 90s, running around random restaurants, front of house, getting in trouble, not getting in trouble, staying out of trouble. I'm sure
doing all the things.
All the things, but it was such a great experience. It was just that the time when like the restaurants were the events, you know, you go in and it was from the cocktail bar to your table to the party and then back to the cocktail party, back to the cocktail bar. And it was just these huge restaurants that sat like 400, 500 people.
Yeah. So wait, let's just rewind. So one, you know, I think, I mean, you're pretty lucky to grow up sourcing food locally. Mm-hmm. I'd say this day and age, those things are hard to do, and we're trying to teach generations of people to kind of get back to local sourcing of food, whether you're vegan or a meat eater, doesn't really matter. Just kind of localities like a top of mind right now. So I consider you pretty lucky. But then you moved away from that and you went to New York, and you got the grocery shop a ton. You just love that, huh?
Love it.
You love going to the grocery store.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Every Saturday with my grandmother, and just the delis, right? Like I tell people I'm Jewish Italian from New York, right?
Yeah.
Like it's very normal there, and it is not anywhere else. So you go into a deli, it's Jewish Italian.
Yeah.
Right? You go into a restaurant, Jewish Italian.
Yeah.
So diners, Jewish Italian, and just I love it. I love.
So you were in your community of people. I tell people I'm Gruish, so I'm Greek and Jewish.
Yeah.
So it's like we're kind of
I'm
Mediterranean.
A pizza bagel.
Ooh. I love it. So yeah, so you're in New York and you're in your teens and you're working in front of houses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was 19 when I.
Was that like a job you had to get? Like your parents made you get a job, or you wanted some extra money, or?
No, I was hopping around. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I had done like 2 years at college. I didn't like that. That was boring.
Yeah. College sucks.
I'm not very good at it. Sitting still is not my forte. So, and you have to sit still a lot. And
I never went to college.
You went to CIA.
I did. I bypassed college altogether. I spent those 4 years just getting in trouble, much like yourself, it sounds like.
So my neighbor was a chef at CIA growing up, with also having like the backyard.
In the city?
No, not in the city, in Hudson Valley.
Oh, in Hudson Valley.
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
so I lived
of course.
in Red Hook until I was 10.
Yeah.
And so we would go sledding. That's what we would go to CIA for. We would go there to sled.
They have good sledding hills.
They do.
I have a good sledding story over there.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
But it's a little different when you're 10 or 5
Yeah.
versus like.
Yeah. So you grew up in and around the CIA over there.
Mm-hmm.
And wow.
Yeah. So it was that kind of vibe. It was that
Totally.
Hudson Valley. It's sleepy town from the city. It's rural, but it's still not.
That's right.
Right. So you have this whole experience of like a hop, skip, and a jump away from like Manhattan, but you're growing up outside.
Yeah, you're by like where Woodstock happened, New Paltz, Rhinebeck, all those little. I kind of love those little towns.
Yeah, I love them so much. I go up there and it's like, my body belongs there.
Yeah.
And then after a few days, I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, it still has the energy of the city.
So my cousin had a pizzeria in like right by Woodstock actually, and it was actually where I first learned how to make pizza was over there.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, and they had it for years. It was like attached to like an antique store.
Of course it was.
Yeah, it was the best. It was the best. First slice out of the oven, the best.
Oh my God! What kind of
I
oven
could
was
smell it right now. It was a Baker's Pride. It was a deck oven.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't do no fancy pies here in the Spike Mendelsohn household. We do tried and true Baker's Pride New York style crusts. I don't mess with the Neapolitan stuff. No. I don't like a sloppy pizza. I'll eat a knife and fork pizza if I go to the restaurant, but I'm not ordering that thing out. No, I'm not walking down the block with it.
No, my family's Sicilian, so it was always like, what do you think you're so much better than everybody else? You have to make your pizza round. Like, no, it goes in a pan. Like, don't be so fancy. Ugh. Like that. And everything was like bread with topping.
Yeah. So New York. So you were in the front of house. What do you remember any of the places you were working?
I do.
Yeah.
The best place I ever worked was Canistell's.
Okay, tell me.
Canistell's was about 500 people. It's at 500 people. It had a huge cocktail bar it was the bridge and tunnel crowd.
Yes. I like the way you say it.
Park Avenue South. So it was definitely where people went to party, and it was where I learned how to be, to have that like bitter, cynical edge as somebody in the industry.
Bit of that city, edge. Okay.
Yeah, you weren't allowed to wear sneakers. You had to wear either boots or heels. And I saw a lot of people slip and fall. It was fantastic.
Yes.
It was I don't know if it was one of the first, but it had an open kitchen.
Yeah.
Right. So it had like glass, as I'm dropping stuff, it had like glass window and you could see in. And it was definitely one of those old school chefs that hated everybody.
Yes.
And
The best chefs.
He'd come out and like grab your face, make you eat food, and then tell you how much you sucked, and then went back in the kitchen.
You can't do that anymore.
You're not allowed.
Evidently, you can't do that anymore.
Not allowed.
Yeah, you're not.
Had a lot of.
I mean, I grew up in that camp. I mean, I went to, I worked in the north of France, but I also grew up in a gangster restaurant family, and like chefs were,
They throw things.
They were meant to throw things and be mean and belittle you, and we can't do that anymore.
No, you're not allowed. It is one place where people with, rage issues and also maybe a little ADHD, a little, misunderstood souls could go and really express themselves.
Yeah, we thrived in those places.
Yeah,
thrived.
But you can also we did it was scary and horrible, but it was also I get it.
Scary, horrible, but like something. But the only reason I'm alive today is that I was able to do the things in a kitchen that I couldn't do in public.
Well, it's the military training for those of us who can't get into the military, right?
Yes, this is true. It helped. I went to military school, but man, you're making me reminisce of those days. Just that we're just people weren't as soft as they are today.
No.
And not that I'm playing the old card, like I'm old.
Those are the good old days.
Those are the good old days. No, people are soft right now. Even older people are soft.
We don't glorify abuse in any manner. Let's just say that. We are not glorifying any of the abuses that happened. But what it did do was force you to be able to put up with a lot of hard work and a lot of really high expectations.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the benefit came in, where maybe we're not seeing that as much now.
Which is kind of a conundrum because the industry has not become easier to work within. It's actually becoming more difficult, if anything, meaning it's hard to hire people, minimum wage is high, inflation, pandemics, technology is coming in, taking margin from us.
So much technology.
So the industry actually is not easier to navigate these days.
Not at all.
So, there's a lot of pans to be thrown that we can't throw anywhere. It's just...
You just can't. I don't think you can rise through the ranks the way that you used to.
Yeah.
Right? Like you finally get your foot in someplace and you fight for any crappy little job that you could get just so you could get into this restaurant with this chef.
Yes.
And then... if you could get into the back of the house, being a woman, it was very difficult.
Yes.
Right? If not,
well, tell me about that.
Yeah.
So you couldn't get in the back of the house.
No, and that's where I just wasn't tough enough.
Yeah. Were you boots or heels?
It was boots.
Your boots. Good for you.
I would always try and break the rules and get away with
Good
sneakers.
for you. Well, you were one step into the kitchen. You're like, I'm wearing boots.
Yeah.
Because I'm not slipping on high heels like the rest of those ladies.
Come on, let me in the back. Let me go cut something.
Yeah.
Nope.
So how did you break through?
I started my own.
You started your own. Is that the only way you were able to get into the back of the house?
I mean, for the most part, and when you're talking about that type of standard where you have to get into the restaurant to try and get into the chef that you want so that you can learn the things that you want and that type of, no, I never got in.
Yeah.
I never pushed hard enough. I was too scared.
Yeah.
So when either I was done with New York or New York was done with me, I'm not really sure, but I ended up I came here to DC to do an internship for PETA.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, I know I like animals. I'm not going to go to school to be a vet. I wonder what else is out there.
Yeah. Were you vegan by now?
I had just started working at a veterinarian part-time.
Oh.
So I was working in bars and restaurants, and then I was like, I'm going to pick up this side shift as a veterinarian and learn how to be a vet tech, just what you do in your spare time.
Yeah.
And then I ended up working in a shelter in New York, which New York serves all 5 boroughs. So the shelter system there is very large. And it's just the politics there are really intense. And you see a lot of animals come through. And there were some people who were in the animal rights world that were working in the shelter at the time and running those shelters. So it was in a transition between the ASPCA and another organization. So I just kind of like started hopping around. Like, I don't know, do I want to do this? I love fried chicken. I really love my grandmother's meatballs.
Oh, there you go.
This is really sad. I like cheese. I'm not one of these people that's like, never had it, don't care. I'm like, I love food so much that like even the things I hate, I will eat because I love food. So,
that's a great point, by the way. Like, you know, part of having, you know, part of shifting your diet to more plant-based, for instance, or being completely vegan or vegetarian, whatever it is, and especially if you come from an Italian background or a background that is known about food, doesn't matter what background, right? You don't want to let go of your grandmother's meatballs.
Nope.
The keftedes to me is what my grandmother's meatballs are, the Greek meatballs, keftedes.
Uh-huh.
And it's probably one of the sole reasons I will never go fully vegan is just because, I mean, she passed away, but we have the recipe, but there's
it's not the same.
It's not the same. There's a certain my mother, as you know, is a wonderful cook, one of the best as far as I'm concerned, and I have to continue eating her food. You know, I can't.
Or else you will get in trouble.
Yeah, I will get in trouble. Yeah, it was already bad enough I married a vegan. My mother was like, "What are you doing?" She got over that. She loves my wife. But yeah, I mean, like that's kind of, you know, I think that's one of the other. I want to know what. So what was the precipice to go? Was it vegetarian first for you? Was it vegan, full-fledged vegan? So what was the moment? Like, what was the hard moment that you had to come to terms with that? I've been living in this body that loves to eat everything, but I'm actually vegan.
Right. As I'm like eating pepperoni or whatever it was that day, I'm like working in these restaurants where just, you know, the family meal was not just like, oh, throw some pasta on a plate, right? Like,
right.
Like lemon chicken, and oh my God, and I'm
getting hungry right now.
I know. I'm just like picturing all the plates. Caesar salad in the 90s, it was different back then.
Oh, Caesar salad in the 90s was in a wooden bowl with some yolks and anchovies.
So salty, so delicious. So working in a veterinarian, experiencing the shelter, thinking about doing an internship at PETA, meeting some people that were in the animal rights realm, right? So it's not just like, I think I don't want to eat animals. That was never a part of what I was even thinking about. It was like, oh, I like animals. Maybe I'll be good at working at with them in some form or fashion. Sure. And then this whole entire idea of like animals aren't necessarily ours to use, and I was like, oh, and that concept clicked with me. So you know, we all have like the social movement or the social aspect that really clicks with us. And growing up in upstate New York, where there was just a lot of emphasis on doing, you know, giving back to the community, a lot of different social movements that were not necessarily born there, but were still very much a part of my daily life, or very much part of my experience. Yeah. And so it wasn't foreign to me to like, kind of latch onto something that you think is a good idea and that is better than what you're doing now, which could have just been like, I guess I'll go vegetarian, but it wasn't. It was like, tell me more. And it was, well, you know, animals are not necessarily here for our use, right? And so that's where it started for me, and then it crossed over into like the agricultural aspect of how we use animals, right? So I love food, and animals taste delicious. Yes. And once that concept like was there, I was so sad and so angry, and didn't know what I was going to do with it. And like, once you find out, you can't go back, right? So like, once my brain started like working with this, I was like, God damn it, I went to my grandmother's house and I took everything out of the freezer and I started eating chicken cutlets over the sink, and I started eating the meatballs, and they were like, what are you doing? And then I didn't even know what the term vegan was, but I knew the relationship to the agriculture aspect. Yeah. And I knew that I wasn't really going to be eating cheese or milk, or that was going to be this part of this process. And I looked at them and I said, I'm going vegetarian. And they said, that's not how you do it. And I said, I know.
Of course they did.
I said, I know, but I'm not going to be able to eat anything.
They probably were setting up an intervention a few weeks later. Like, I thought she's possessed. I don't know what's going on.
And then it was like, okay, well, how do you do this? And I was like, I don't know. And I'm going to have to find out more information. So it's not like you can call up your local, like, what does this mean hotline? And so I started meeting some people and started meeting some friends that, or had some friends that were vegetarian, then could explain these concepts to me, right? Yeah. And explain what vegan was. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to eat pecorino romano again. This is not happening. This is not happening. Like, that's horrible. This is a horrible, horrible thing. And I knew that I was entering this like vast no man's land of food. But living in New York, I quickly realized like there's all these other foods that I've never had before that are by default vegan or happen to be made without animal products. And
yeah, we call those vegetables out there,
call them
guys.
vegetables,
We
but
call
they
those
also call it like 22nd Street and Little
yes,
India
yep,
and
yep.
you know all of the Asian markets. And you know, once you understand it and know what you're looking for, like that's really what happened to me. Was it just opened up my palate in a way where I was like, oh, I've never had curry before because I've grown up in this like Jewish Italian world. Yeah. And which had then, you know, also becomes very Americanized. And like, I've also had grilled cheese American slices on white bread, right? Like, so it just opened up this whole idea of like, there's more out there.
Yeah. That's so interesting to me because see, I would say I'm a confused flexitarian at best let's just put it that way. And the reason I say that is because I'm still trying to figure out the meaning of life, you know, as maybe some of us still are or have figured it out. I don't know where you guys are in your life, but I'm still just trying to figure out what this is all about.
Oh no, I got all the answers. You just asked me.
This is why we had you. So, you know, and so when you say, you know, animals aren't put on this earth for our use, right? Can you unpack that a little bit more? Because it's an interesting comment. Is that a PETA thing that you picked up? And the reason why I'm asking you this is because there's the wild animals, right? There were the dinosaurs at some point. There's animals and mammals that are extinct now for whatever reason. You know, whether we ate them all or they just disappeared through evolution. I'm a huge Save the Whales enthusiast, right? I'm like, you know, a diehard Save the Whales. For some reason, like I connect there, but I still eat a steak, you know, where I know the farm's coming from. Like I get that kind of grittiness now with the meat that I eat. But, you know, like is there really purpose for chickens other than eggs and meat, like on this planet? So, you know, can someone answer that for me? Like I understand the environmental impact of huge chicken farms. But when I'm talking about chickens, I'm talking about like a little bit more local farming, you know, or, you know, like free range and so it's such a convoluted subject and it's just interesting, like on,
totally.
Yeah. Right. Like there's so much to unpack. Like how can you not love the Parmigiano Reggiano makers that for centuries have been doing this?
Oh my God,
and
the cannoli fillers. You need a certificate to fill cannolis. There we go. Italy. Like, come on.
I did not know that actually.
Yes. Like, yeah, the beauty of it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of beauty from food that's involved with animals that we bring to the table, traditions, long-lasting traditions. So it's like, you know, I entered the vegan world. I have, you know, 13 locations of plant burgers, and my wife's vegan. My kid eats vegan, and he does everything. You know, him and I eat everything. I'm just not a diehard, like we have to turn this planet all vegan. I've always promoted like the balance of life and diets, and I'm against huge monopolized farming. That is bad for the industry, but I'm okay with small farmers, right? Of you know, and so that's kind of where I live and die. And people, some hate me for it because they're like, how can you own 13 vegan restaurants and have a good stuff eatery or this or eat meat? I'm like, well, like, you don't get that. I'm more about balance than any one thing.
Yeah, you see the value in both.
I see the value, like, you know, animals aren't meant to be here for our purpose. Well, I have a dog and I walk him and he brings me love and joy. Is he captivated? Am I holding captivated? Like, does he need to like run? Does he need to be free in the world? Like, you know,
imagine if just tomorrow we were like, we all put our goldfish out on the sidewalk.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
No, I think when you're 21 or 20 at the time and you're looking for the thing that's going to get you excited, right? You find the one thing that's like the vinegar to your, lack of a better term, piss, right? So like I was in the piss and vinegar stage, right? Like I was looking for something to fight for. Yeah. And that was other people are in college, right? I wasn't in school. I was like out there learning about what was going on and having these experiences and trying to work in different places so I could have those experiences. And that was kind of what that was kind of what I found out, and that's where I found PETA. Now, let me say that I am not here to be like, PETA is the end all be all. I'm saying that like PETA is this great organization that's really fun, and they take a huge stance, a big, giant, loud stance on what they believe in, which is, ethically, animals are not ours to use or to eat or to wear, right? And that is just really easy to identify with, right? Like, okay, they're not mine to eat or use or wear, right? And then you can take that and go whichever direction you want with that. You can go extreme, you can take a piece of it. I decided that for me, it was going to be easier to like, okay, I'm not going to eat animals, I'm not going to eat cheese, I'm not going to eat eggs, I'm not going to wear leather, because there's enough available to me where I can survive and also be the best person that I can be and make the most amount of change in doing that. Now, that's not necessary. Not everybody has that availability, right?
Yeah.
Like, not everybody has they're not in the right time or the right space, or
they can't afford it.
Right.
Yeah.
Though there are arguments that, like, the majority of the world has survived on grains and beans and legumes, and meat is really allotted for a select few, especially the types of meat that we eat. The amount of meat that we eat in this country is really only available to us because of the type of agriculture and farming that is connected to it.
I agree with that.
Right. So that extreme farming in any manner, right? Like, I would venture to guess that we also don't want to have the same process for the corn or the wheat, right? But now we're also at a point in our population, the global population, like there's no way that we can survive or sustain without going into, GMOs and different practices that are going to sustain people at any level, not just like talking about meat eating at this level, like any level. So I'm not here to be like, everybody, we should go vegan right now. I'm not going to use this as a protest by any means. But through me developing and understanding, I took a hard stance on the agricultural practices. Yeah. And I was also at the University of Maryland in their agriculture program, and they don't like that much. So I wasn't really allowed to. My senior project was creating a vegan snack cart in a hospital, right? Okay. And they're like, you can't call it vegan because they're funded by Purdue, right? And we're like, okay. And the same thing happened to me years later when we started getting some press and started getting attention. And then, TV shows are like, want to come in and somebody wants to cook alongside you. And we're like, this is vegan. They're like, cut. You can't say the word vegan.
You can't say the word vegan? No, really? I did not know this.
No, it was like the first, we were on a bunch of shows in the early aughts. Right?
And this was for what? This was for what business?
Sticky Fingers.
This was for Sticky Fingers.
This is for Sticky Fingers. So Sticky Fingers started in 1999.
Yeah, tell me.
Right?
1999. What a great year to start something.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I kind of just coasted along, figuring it out. And by start, I mean, we came up with the idea. We made some sticky buns. We sold it to our friends. Somebody bought a cake for me. And I was like, I have a business. I don't know what I'm doing. And I was at University of Maryland at the time. I know this is meandering, but when I was at University of Maryland and I took a food science class, I was already vegan at the time. Yeah. And I had already committed to the fact that I was never going to eat any of the foods that I remembered, right? So it was only these new types of foods that I was learning how to make or dishes that I was learning how to cook. And I had not had anything that resembled anything that I had ever remembered eating as a child, or that my family had made, or that I had seen on the shelves packaged deliciously. There were no vegan ho-hos or hostess or anything.
None of that stuff.
We just had those hippy crunchy cookies that I grew up with that I had more or less decided to boycott. And if I never eat another raisin, I will be fine. Yes. Right? Our parents tricked us and they're like, no, it is sugar. And you're like, this is totally not sugar.
Yeah,
that
is
a raisin.
Lies.
It's a squished up raisin and it's in
oatmeal. It's a grape that was dehydrated.
It's boring. And it doesn't taste like a Fruit Loop. So when I took a food science class, that was where it all kind of changed. I was like, it's the food science. It's the science behind it. It's not necessarily the ingredients. So there's more to the story when it comes to eggs. There's more to the story when it comes to milk. Mm-hmm. And that was the next defining moment in my long list of how I ended up baking. So we were
So that was a big one.
That was a big one
Yeah.
where it was like, oh, let's make cake. And so you make like 10 different types of cake, and you replace oil with butter. You replace margarine with butter, and like just you replace eggs with applesauce, which is also a very bad idea. Don't ever do that.
Yeah.
So like, it doesn't do what you want it to do. So like I was like, oh, okay, right. So that was the lab, and then I started reading
Who
about
invented
it.
that one? Replaced eggs with applesauce.
That had to have
who
been,
did that to
that
everybody?
had to have been the fat-free movement.
Yes.
That-
That movement.
Oh,
The fat-free. That was a bad one for America,
awful.
for the food system.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It was painful.
Senior butts.
I ate so many bagels, like dry bagels with nothing on them. Or remember like the fat-free spray butters?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Ugh, I can smell it right now.
So it's interesting talking because, like I said, you don't look a day over 34, but you were in this movement way in the beginning before it was cool to be vegan or vegetarian.
Way
You
before it was
suffered
cool.
through, you suffered through some of the worst food ever to get to this point. You really did it.
I've really suffered.
You
for
really
all of
did
you.
it. Yeah.
Everybody, my husband and I are always like this little, like
Yeah.
we're the old guys and all these little brats. They don't know
Yeah.
what they have it with this plant burger over here and this Whole Foods over here. Like we had nothing that we could buy off the shelf. There was Eden soy.
Yeah.
There was tofu. There was tempeh.
What were those burgers? Those bad burgers that were just rock hard?
This is before Boca. Okay?
Oh, was this even
Yeah.
before Boca?
Yeah. So when Boca came out, we were like, woo!
Oh, you're excited. That was like a big party time.
I will say there was oh my goodness, the canned meats at the time. There were canned fake meats, but that was Seventh-day Adventist, who I can't think of their name right now. Seventh-day Adventist had created this whole line of fake meats. Seventh-day Adventists are vegetarians.
Yeah.
So they had these canned hot dogs and canned things that were called like chicken, ham, meatloaf.
Oof.
That weren't
Something like
any
that,
of those
like what
things.
you see, like the vegan turduckens that they make.
Right. It was like bologna-ish.
Yeah.
And then a lot of fake meats that were made overseas and are still used, like a lot of the process of making soy milk or soy or making tofu, right? And then taking the byproducts of that or byproducts like the fiber and whatnot, and then making fake meats from that. A lot of that made its way over here into the Buddhist restaurants, right? So we could find those every once in a while. But other than that, nope. Lentils, some potatoes.
Yeah. Just the hardcore way.
Just suffered.
So Sticky Fingers. So 1999. Like how? So how did you grow this? Like what were the stages of it?
Oh my gosh, there are a lot of stages. People's tables, right?
Yeah.
Like just coming up with cookies and making like, well, let me taste yours. Well, let me taste this. Like potlucks and what did you put in that one? And then God forbid you get a carob chip and you're like starting all over again.
Yeah.
Like I'm traumatized. And now people come in like, do you use carob or do you use sugar-free? And I'm like, you have to get out of my store now. You're not allowed to say that in here. Like so anti. But yeah, we thought that we were going to do some sort of food cart.
Yeah.
Right. Like that was my final.
What was the big idea? A food cart.
Food cart, right?
So like rolling through the
just
hospitals.
me and my umbrella and my food cart. Yeah, because
like a hot dog cart, but food cart
yeah.
of sweets.
Yes, because you could move it around. It was a vehicle, but it wasn't a vehicle. And
Yes.
to see, this is before the food truck movement,
craze. I was about to say before the food truck
right.
craze.
And you could not have a food truck. Like one person owned all the licenses, and that was it. So you couldn't have a food cart. It was more likely that we'd be able to join forces with somebody and have some sort of food cart in a food court, right? Like think university or think hospital. But those are all, very regulated and owned by whichever, like Cisco's of the world.
People that don't want you to say vegan.
They don't want you to say vegan, and they don't want you bringing outside cookies into their area. So the food cart died pretty quickly. And then I met somebody who had a bakery who was looking to get rid of his bakery because, sometimes, especially in DC at the time, like sometimes businesses aren't always what they seem.
Definitely not.
Right. And so this business in particular was also an excellent drug front because you couldn't, like baking cookies and baking bread, it's really difficult to smell other things over that. And I am not making the story up.
Oh, wow. Really? This was a grow house?
Yes.
I love this.
It was like, I'm like Forrest Gump, right? Like nothing actually happens to me, but all these like very strange things are happening right alongside me. So we ended up assuming this bakery from this guy, and he was fantastic. He was lovely. And like every other day people would come in and they're like on the rollerblades, you know, and like come in, they're like, wait a minute, this isn't, oh wait, you have
This isn't the spots.
right, but you have cookies? Like, oh, these look great. And
What a great business plan. Take over an old dispensary where people are coming to purchase.
yeah.
Guaranteed all of them have munchies.
That's a speakeasy, and nobody can talk about it.
Exactly.
And it was in a basement, and it flooded regularly, and we were there for a couple years. And
Wow, I love this. So this was in DC.
yeah,
And so this was like a grow house dispensary undercover. Were they baking anything?
Yes.
What were they baking? Just like cookie dough?
yeah, breads and you know, par baked breads.
Yeah. There was no
cookie dough.
artisanal baking happening. This
No.
was just straight up front.
No. Yep. And me being my like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like I'm gonna go and help the world, and I'm gonna make brownies and cookies while doing it. And like there's this bakery, and I'm like I'm gonna go and see. You know, it was like going around trying to find space, right?
Yeah.
Because there were no shared kitchens either.
Yeah.
So I was trying to find people who would allow me to rent time.
Yeah.
And so I went to this guy, and he was like, "Sure, I'm not using that much," and that was it. It was very like, "Sure, you can have some time here."
Great. So he still did the business. And
For a little while.
And then you just kind of supplied the munchies for a little bit, and then he got out of it.
Yep.
He got out.
Yep.
And you took over the whole space.
Took over the whole space.
You kept the marijuana operation going? Or?
I did not.
Okay, that just
turns out I'm just not really well versed in that.
you're not a good grower. Yeah,
No.
it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. Listen, it's hard.
I can only imagine.
It's people think you can grow marijuana so easily. It's a weed. It's a weed. It's a difficult thing to do. To do it right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I kill every single
know.
plant that's ever
tough.
been in my house. So
Are you? That's my wife too. She kills everything.
Everything.
Every little plant. I was like, this is a cactus. How did it die? It doesn't even need water, babe.
Yeah, I've killed all the cactus.
Yeah.
I killed like 150-year-old aloe.
Oh no.
But I'm much better at growing a bakery, and I'm much better. Like I can handle like a kid.
Yeah.
Some cats.
Yeah. Do you have children?
I have one son.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
How old?
He's 12.
Oh, beautiful. Is that a great age?
It's awesome. He's great.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart. I want him to stop growing.
I have a 7-year-old, and it seems like he's a teen already.
It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too fast.
It's too fast. So all right. So you have this. So you took over this bakery, and that lasted for a few years, huh?
That was in Adams Morgan. It was for a few years.
Ooh, Adams Morgan on top of it. So you had a lot of. Well, you didn't have a lot of jumbo slices, but you heard about it.
I
back
heard
in the
about
day.
it. No, but there was Karen, I think was the name of the place, and they sold pita bread and full, and it was so
good. What they've done with Adams Morgan, by the way, is amazing these days. Is it still?
Lot.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot, like all the outdoor seating and stuff.
Yeah.
I think they should just shut off 18th Street
Yeah, right. They should just.
to end and just make it an outdoor
Yeah.
playland.
Can you tell the mayor to shut off 18th Street? Here, we'll put you back on mic.
They've tried. They want to shut it down. They've done like test runs with it over like weekends, but they should. But it's basically all streeteries now.
Yeah.
Like all of Adams Morgan is all streeteries. There's like one lane of traffic either way. A lot of outside seating, and a lot of the bars that were there, like remember Tom Tom's and
Yeah.
Brass Monkey, probably when you were over there, they've all closed, and it's more restaurants that turn into kind of quasi nightclubs at night, but they're really just glorified bars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, that was a word from Jason, formerly from the mayor's office, so he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, Jason, get on that.
Get on that. Can you close that street up, man?
They want to close it off. It's just there's traffic patterns, but it's been successful before. They've like had Adams Morgan.
They just need to listen to us, because the traffic pattern excuse
It's BS.
Yeah.
is totally. Look, they're going to make more money if they just shut that street off and allow people to sit longer and spend more money and more time
Definitely.
at these restaurants.
And no one wants exhaust fumes
Nobody.
on a
And
patio
nobody
where you're eating food.
Sorry, but nobody trusts these drivers.
Yes.
I almost said DC, but it's not. We know it's not the DC.
It's not the DC. It's the Maryland, right? Is that?
Can't really
But
say.
they've tried to do like Thursday night through Sunday, like early morning type closures type things. So when people are out on the weekends, they can use it as an entertainment pedestrian zone.
Nice.
So
I
they
will
should
not
do
be
that.
opening
There's
up a
lots of spots
restaurant
in the city they
in
should do that,
Adams
actually.
Morgan, no time soon. So you were in Adams Morgan,
Yeah.
and then so what's the next stage?
The next stage.
I can't believe you started this in 1999 and you're still at it.
Still doing it. It's really funny. I keep coming back to it too. So
Yeah.
every time I try and run away, it yanks me back
Just,
to the original OG main thing that we started with.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at now. So the next step from Adams Morgan, it was at a time where this was like real niche, real crazy, real nutty. Like, who the heck creates something that, and people would get it wrong all the time. They'd be like, you have a sugar-free bakery? I'm like, no, it's egg and dairy free. And they're like, so there's no gluten. I'm like, nope, that's not even right. But, and there was one show that we were on that was the, oh my goodness, I'm not going to remember all of them right now. This is how you know I'm 51, because I'll go to like recall that word real fast. I'm like, no, I don't remember that guy. But we were on one cooking show where, like, they hop around, they like pick a city and they hop around and they check out a couple of places.
It was on the Food Network?
Yeah, it was on the Food Network. And
was it a talent? Was it like Tyler Florence?
No, it was like it was Paula Dean's Sons.
Ooh, Paula Dean's Sons.
So that was and then there was another one called Roker on the Road. That was like way old. Yes. So like Roker wouldn't even come on he was never on the road. It was just his whole cast, and they would just come in and like watch you make stuff. And both of those shows got it wrong in the beginning, and one was like, look at this sugar-free sticky buns. We were like, nope. And then the other one was like, you're not going to believe this. They don't use any flour. And I was like, nope, that's not even it. But
it's just dairy and egg-free.
But we're going to take all of that, all of that exposure, and we're just going to ride with it. Yeah. And the first time we got like 30,000 orders for sticky buns, we were like, oh, we don't know how to do this. And there was nobody to ask, right? We're just like, what do you do when all of a sudden you go from like, we're in a basement to like, we're on TV.
Who was your first big order? Do you remember?
It was just mail order. We were like, we're going to ship these in the mail to you.
Wow.
Yeah. We're going to put them in.
So you had all this publicity, all this marketing, and it just pushed you, and you started getting all these orders.
Yeah.
Were you getting orders for like flourless?
Yes, flourless sticky buns, correct.
Sticky buns.
Yeah. And we sent all of them out.
Yeah.
All over the country. And you just put them in some plastic. I mean, it was real.
Yeah.
It was great. It was just sticky buns in plastic bag with a zip, like little twist tie on it, and then some directions that we had printed and cut and taped on the bag.
And if you were gluten-free, you have Food Network to blame for the false ad. Okay, perfect. I mean, I love that. Yeah.
They would call on the phone, and we'd talk to them on the phone. No texting back then, or very little email. But
you got a beep. You got your beeper went off a ton back then.
I did. All that pager, man. I had to throw it out the window. I throw it up. We were in the basement. And then, then we ended up being on this bizarre documentary. A friend of ours is she's Korean American, and there was a documentary being done on Korean Americans, and she had done some work at the bakery, and so they had come in on this documentary, and then a group of investors in Seoul found us, and then they wanted to create this like flourless, sugarless, dairy and egg free.
The joke keeps going on.
Right. Yeah. Dairy and egg free, bakery in Seoul, and they wanted to invest here. We weren't ready to have anybody invest, but what we did was sold them the rights so that they could open these bakeries in Seoul, and then we used that for our next expansion, which was to Columbia Heights, where we created a cafe. Yeah. So it was just your standard everyday cafe.
Oh, so you sold them. How well did they do?
They lasted for about 6 years, way before its time.
Wow.
The thing that was really the most difficult for them, and they had the model that like I want now, which is they had centralized location, and then they had kiosks all over the city, which is way easier to do in Seoul, because if you've ever been there, they have just think Macy's and the makeup counter, but it's grocery stores with food counters. Yeah, and that's just floors and floors and floors. So you can open these small little footprints and then just truck your stuff in every day. Yeah. And they did pretty well. They had a ton of locations at one point, but getting the ingredients was really difficult. So we were having the specifications to follow our baking, right? So it wasn't just soy milk and oil, right? So they had to source earth balance, they had to get the shortenings to make the frosting, and we wouldn't budge on hydrogenated oils or dairy.
That's tough. Supply chain's always what kills you.
Always, but they had the best packaging ever.
Really?
Yeah, they had stuffed animals that were our logo.
Really?
It was like a little raccoon at the time. So cute.
And they had 6 locations? Or?
They had at least 6 locations. Yeah. I don't remember.
That's awesome. When do you get to sell something like that? That's a great thing.
Right.
And then you used it to open up your Columbia Heights location.
And I learned a lot about distribution, import, exports, where it all happens, and that was eye-opening.
Yeah. So why did you go? You went to a more full service style of a restaurant, and it was all vegan. Okay, you sound okay. So, it sounds stressful. You're like I did it.
I just missed this like obvious opportunity to get into like packaged goods and importing and exporting, and I was like, no, that's not fun.
No.
Let's go over here and hang out and just like make people pancakes to order.
Yeah, so you're like, what?
I wanted this cafe. I wanted a place where people could come in, sit down, and learn about what they were eating.
You wanted to hang. You want to meet your your customers. I mean,
it was fun.
We're such romantics in this business, aren't we? You know, sometimes it gets the best of us.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it got more of me. It got more.
Yeah,
of me.
it's got more of me. I'm sure it'll get some more of me in the future at some point.
Yeah, it's gonna get you again.
It's gonna get me somehow.
I have to lock it up because from the cafe, right? And it's all this like once you get a little attention, and then somebody's like, "You should do this," and you're like, "I should do that.
Yeah,
that's a great idea."
Totally.
So once we got into the cafe, fast forward a couple years, and Food Network's still going, and like this Cupcake Wars show starts happening.
That's right.
And somebody's like, "Did you see it?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna watch this stupid show." It's like competition television. It's like so fake.
Oh my god, you sound like me, like battling, doing Top Chef. So my sister was my sister was a Project like Runway fan, and Top Chef came right after that show. And so for like a year, she would be like, "You got to go do this show. You got to go do this Top Chef show."
Yeah.
I was like, I trained in the north of France, Mish. I was like, I'm not going to throw my career away on a stupid reality show.
Yeah.
All right. Since that conversation, I've been on like 6-7 different competition shows. But, and I mean, they're good, but there's also this other side to it that people don't understand. But so Cupcake, are you the Cupcake Queen twice? You've won? You don't like that term?
I guess the Cupcake Queen's great. I will take whatever. There have been so many times where I was like, can we create a marketing campaign and brand it where we have actually killed the cupcake and it's dead now?
Yes.
And our PR was always like, no, because you're still making money on it. And I was like, I can fix that. Like I can change, I can do this real. And I did, sort of. I mean, yes, we still make cupcakes, but that was never what we only did.
Yeah.
And it pigeonholed us. But it was great. You know, we rode that wave. We were on Cupcake Wars 3 times and then a couple other competition things.
Yeah.
And we won twice. And as being vegan, right, like that was a big deal.
Yeah.
So we could kind of use that to say like, hey, look, we don't suck. Even they don't think we suck. You can
Twice.
do this 2 times.
2 times.
And it's only 1 time we didn't win, and that time we sucked. So, but we've also been around for a long time, and we make other things. They'd be like, no, wait, what? You do things other than cupcakes? And like, you're the Cupcake Queen. I'm like, oh my God, okay,
It's
great.
so funny how people will identify you with what they see on a show or what you're putting out in the press, and then like it's almost like you can't get away from it.
No.
I remember when we opened up Good Stuff Eatery, you know, I had again a long line of like classically French trained restaurants I worked at, Michelin restaurants, this, that, and the other. I came from New York on a whim to help my sister and mother because they had this idea of a restaurant, and it was the burger spot.
Yeah.
And then Mish did her magic with the marketing and PR, and all of a sudden I came like the burger guy, and that burger guy followed me for at least a decade, and then it slowly became you're the pizza and burger chef, and I'm like, oh, it would just kill my soul. So what did I do? Is I got reeled back into the business. I opened up a bistro, right? It just got me, and then of course I ran the bistro for a number of years, and then we closed it because we just hated that business model. We were like, we got to get back to fast casual.
Yeah, you're like, we got tacos.
I was
next.
like, what did I exactly?
After that, we
I was
got
like,
some salads.
I was like, what did I do? I was like, and I mean, of course I did. I mean, I loved my restaurant, Bernays. Mission, I loved it. It was probably one of the best restaurants we've ever opened as far as like bistro food is concerned, and I miss it. But man, it was a reality check.
There's nothing better. There's nothing better when it clicks and it's moving and it's a busy night and everybody's working together and you have exactly the right amount of staff and like everything is happening, everything is moving. Yeah. It's the most beautiful feeling. And when you walk into a room where you have customers that are just guests that are truly happy and you have provided that for them, it's a gift.
Yeah.
It's an absolute gift to be able to experience that. Or it is, the flip side to that is that it could be absolute torture every single day. It is the hardest business. I have a friend that has an events business. And business is hard, right?
Yes.
It's just crazy, like crazy putting on these huge events anywhere and everywhere, and you have to get everybody there at the exact same time. That is very, very, very stressful.
Very.
But they don't make their own tables for their events, and that's like my analogy for it.
Yeah.
And then you take it one step further is like you have to make the wood to make the tables when you have a vegan restaurant.
Yeah. And you don't need to see those guests again after that one event.
No, and you charge enough so that you never have to see them again. Like, I have to see these same people. But like I'm cringing my hands. I'm like, oh my god.
If I can open a restaurant where you're only allowed to dine at once, that's it. It'd be amazing.
I think there are some of those out there.
Really?
You could just go and stage.
Stage?
Yeah.
I'm done. I can't stage anymore.
I'm just kidding.
I used to stage a ton. I mean, when I was going to culinary school in the Hudson Valley, I went to New York every other week. And I had a little good setup. I had picked the restaurants that I enjoyed the family meals the most.
Smart.
And one of them happened to be Le Bernardin. It was I think Saturday night there, and they did pizza nights on Saturday night. I think it was at Le Bernardin. They make the fresh dough. They make delicious pies, and sure enough, I was there like every other week, just working as like a little commis on the station, just there for pizza night. But did a lot of staging, which people don't do now either, by the way.
No.
When's the last time you had a stage come work for free at the restaurant?
No, we don't do that. Well, I'll tell you why we don't do that. But
okay.
We never did that because it was too difficult for us to kind of just stick somebody in a arena that isn't just like there's no chops there, right?
Yeah.
So like there's other than that is the line.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
That's
Nothing like maybe some of the pastas, but like it doesn't make sense. Yeah. So we're so prep heavy.
Yeah.
So the restaurant so prep heavy, and we would hire people thinking like, yeah, they have experience, they can do prep. Nope. Like you have to. It lends itself to baking so much. So we were making seitan, and we were making cheeses, and we were making cutlets and.
What were you making your cutlets out of?
Seitan and chickpeas. So
oh man, you guys are making that is a prep heavy load of stuff there.
We had a 60-quart mixer that we made it on, and we bent that paddle at least 4 times. Like
crazy.
I would bring it to like a machine shop, and I'd be like, "We did this," and they're like, did you put like rocks in there?" And we're like, "Nope, just some extra heavy dough." They're like, "You're making like pretzels, and you kept it on too long," and I'm like, "Nope." Nope, we actually
we're making cutlets out of seitan and
think pretzels, but we took all the starch out of the flour first, so it's kind of like making rubber bands with chickpeas, and like that's the texture of seitan sometimes. So, and then teaching people how to not get to the point where you're making rubber bands with chickpeas, right? So it's all the delicate stuff that people think they want to be involved in. Like, this is fun, this is creative, and you're like, it is, but it's not. It's making the same stuff over and over and over again, perfectly the same exact way every single time.
Yeah.
And so much so in baking more than in cooking or in prepping. But the restaurant, when I decided like, we have enough money and enough financial ability to open a restaurant, I'm going to do it. And about 55 people told me not to do it.
Yeah.
And
I wish I would have had some of those people around me when I was opening my bistro.
Mike Isabella literally slapped me on the top of the head.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. He was like, "You're doing what?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to open my own restaurant. I'm funding it myself, and I'm just going to be the operator." And he went whap right on the top of the head. He's like, "Are you stupid?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Was he working at Zatinja then?
I was.
No, was he?
No. This was way after. This was he had
just
G
left.
and Graffiato.
Oh, he had just done Graffiato.
Yeah, and the sandwich spot. What was the one that was
G?
What was the one that was next to G?
Capnos?
Yeah. He had Capnos and G, and they
Capnos.
had just opened, and they let us do. They would like rent out G basically, and so like you could do events there, and we did an event with our menu that we were going to do at this like bistro that I was going to open.
Yeah.
And
Mike, he did so much in the city. He accomplished so much.
He brought the idea of the restaurant that I learned to work this industry, like what I learned from this industry in New York, he brought that entire concept here.
Yeah.
The way that, like, you know, the cocktails, the party,
100%.
you stay there the whole entire night. See, this is why you have to close the street.
Yeah, you got to close the street. Big shout out to Mike Isabella. Miss him.
Yeah.
Miss him.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast of like,
We'll have you back on we'll have you back on another one for
Yeah.
that one. We can unpack that. It's just cancel culture. You know, people make judgments without knowing all the facts these days.
no, there's a story like that in every single restaurant where every single one of us have come from, because that's the industry.
It's true, and he took it on the chin for
He did.
everybody. And it's just unfortunate, to be honest with you. It really is, especially in this day and age with like technologies in our phones. It's like news travels 100 times faster than it did back in the day. Like things go viral, like, you know, the drop of a dime, and
Yeah.
he just got completely caught up on it. But
It's also tricky, right? Like if you're not supporting people who are speaking out about abuse,
yeah,
that's, you know, you have to. I mean, it's real. It's
Yeah.
real. The abuse is real, and the effects are real.
100%.
Not every single situation is exactly the way that it is being portrayed to be, right?
100%.
And that's the
We
fun.
could leave it there.
We should.
We should
Then
just
we
leave
can
it
just
there.
talk about Yelp. We can
Yeah.
we can bring it to Yelp. How Yelp is like the.
Tell me about Yelp. Yeah. Well, so what do
Yelp.
you know?
Do you want to know my favorite Yelp review of my cupcake?
Do you have it memorized?
I haven't memorized.
I love this.
It was the best one. It was during the Cupcake Wars stuff, and so we knew we were going to start getting the haters where people are coming out and they're like, I tried this place and it wasn't that good. And this person came in, and it was, I went into this bakery, and it looked fine enough. And, you know, they had some stuff there, and I don't like chocolate and I don't like peanut butter. So I had the peanut butter chocolate cupcake.
Oh my God.
I didn't like it.
You Yelpers out there, I'll tell you, respect to you. You're spreading the love about our businesses, but man, the ones that you're right that aren't so favorable to us, those hurt.
The super duper mean ones.
The super duper mean ones, because,
I'm not going to make you a baked potato on a Tuesday.
No.
And I'm sorry, but I don't deserve a 1-star review, because
Yeah.
I'm not going to make you a baked
Big
potato.
potato takes 45 minutes to bake potato.
Or if you ripped your stockings on the chair, like, that sucks. I'm sorry, that happens.
Yeah.
It's life events.
Exactly.
And like, also doesn't deserve a 1-star review. The maps from Google that don't match up with the Google at the exact moment that you're looking at Google, also not my fault.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, like reviewing in general to me is not my favorite thing. Like,
No.
just in general, like across, it's not just Yelp, it's across everything.
No.
It's just
I
like,
don't want to know how your experience was at the hardware store.
yeah, like I don't, I should come to your house and judge you and write a review about what you do.
However, I did go to a hardware store yesterday, and they saw me staring at the aisles, and some guy came over to me and was like, "Are you pondering?" And I was like, I can't understand where the plumbing, like, it turned a corner." And he's like, "Oh, well, plumbing is over here." I was like, "Thanks." I had to get some liquid plumber. And then I got to the register, and there was this whole thing of like inappropriate socks.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I thought it was fantastic. It was just awesome. Like, where else are you going to find your socks that say things like,
Where are you at, Ace Hardware or something?
yeah, it's Ace Hardware.
Oh yeah, I love them.
I was like, am I allowed to say the words
yeah,
that
you
were
can
on the
say
socks? It
Ace.
was like the cutest little kitten in the world, and it was like, the universe is a dick. And I was like, these are great socks.
Ace, if you're listening, you want to, sponsor a podcast. It's my son's name, by the way, and he thinks that store is all about him. I thought you were going to say this person came up to you and said, "Are you plundering?" Yeah, I was like, I thought that's where you were going to go with it. I thought I'd mention.
Adorable, but no.
My dad joke.
It's a good one.
Oh, Fink has a question. So, wait, no. I got I control everything here, Fink. You are now on.
I loved how you said you wanted to kill the cupcake. But being the cupcake queen, is the reign of like the cupcake fad and like dynasty of like, if you think of like 2010 to 2020, the cupcake decade, is it finally over? Because like, DC saw a huge boom in cupcake restaurants. Sorry, not restaurants, but like cupcake shops.
Yeah.
That have like opened and closed. There's only so many left now, and they're starting to dwindle.
Uh-huh.
Is it finally over, or do you think like, has the cupcake been killed?
No,
Cupcakes
but
forever.
cupcakes won't die.
Cupcakes are forever.
They're so handy. Nothing has replaced them. Nothing is as perfect or as inexpensive as this like perfect little cute treat, right? From a business perspective, I don't think it's ever smart to start a business that only focuses on one thing in different flavors, right?
Totally.
And then, of course, I say that while I'm like, oh, we're starting a
You brought me
bakery.
cupcakes, right?
I did not bring you cupcakes.
Listen, there's the Georgetown Cupcake Girls. Did you eat those cupcakes?
They weren't that good.
That's what people
They
start
taste
saying.
like grocery store from Ohio.
Here,
Cupcakes.
let me say something
I
about.
don't mean that meanly. It
let
was
me
good, but it wasn't.
Let me
like,
set it
amazing.
straight about the Georgetown Cupcake Girls. Okay, first of all, they're two very nice individuals. I know them personally. I've worked with them. We've done collabs. When they first opened, the cupcakes were delicious. Okay, and just like everything else, when you grow at such a high speed, it's hard to keep that deliciousness at the consistency. It's hard to keep a moist cupcake that travels across the country, for instance. So, I hear a lot about the Georgetown Cupcake Girls, and a lot of people just kind of give it to them. I'm like, no.
People love to hate.
There's exactly, and I'm just not.
Because you know what? If I brought you a Georgetown cupcake right now, you'd be like, I'll eat it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll eat any. I mean, yeah.
And especially if you didn't know if it was from there, and we just gave it to you, you'd be like, oh, this is a good cupcake.
But I'll give you an example. Like, you guys probably don't, but Sprinkles. You know, Sprinkles has a lot of frosting, but it's like a $12 cupcake or $10 cupcake.
Jeez Louise, really?
It's really expensive right now. Yeah. But like when you compare the two of them, even though like Georgetown Cupcake's local and Sprinkles is better.
Can we also talk about the fact that the two of those places are marketing machines?
Yeah.
Yes.
They're not about
That's
the
true.
cupcakes. If you look at how
100%.
those businesses were started and what their purpose is, it was not just like, I want to make cupcakes because I love making cupcakes. Nobody
Nope.
said that ever.
No.
And the people behind these businesses wanted to start businesses.
That's
and
right.
Just
They
like Crumbles. Remember
Make
them?
make
remember
money.
Crumble,
Yeah,
right?
Crumble.
Oh.
I didn't like their cupcakes either. They were like the big
Well,
ones.
let me tell you, the physics for cupcakes are it's really poor, right?
Yeah.
So it sucks that like cupcakes are the thing that became so popular because keeping them moist,
It's tough.
which is a great word. I love that word when we are talking about baked items.
People get so hell bent
so
on that
grossed
word.
out on that.
I almost was afraid just to even say it.
all the
I was
time when people are like, I hate that word. I'm like, I own a bakery.
yeah.
I love that word. I want everything in my bakery to be as moist as possible without it being too soggy or gross. But they're this big. They
Yeah.
live in a paper wrapper, and they're exposed to the elements. So they're only delicious for so long.
Yeah, They, it's just like fresh baked bread, like fresh baked bread. It doesn't last forever. You can't have that fresh baked bread like 4 days later. It's not gonna be as good as when it was just baked.
No, and there was a time when people were coming in on these like cupcake tours, and they'd dissect the cupcake, and they'd have all these different cupcakes from all these different places, and then there were blogs of these, I ate 47 different cupcakes in a day, and they have their own little cupcake wars, like which one was the best, and this one had the best frosting, and
The best are always the local bakeries.
Yeah,
Like
the
Steve
best are
Bakeries.
always the ones that you make in your house and you frost 30 seconds after they are cool enough for you to frost without the frosting melting. Also, the best frosting in the entire world, I don't care what anybody says,
Ooh,
is
tell me.
Pillsbury from a can.
Oh.
Best ever.
Pillsbury, yeah.
The
I do love that.
worst.
Yeah.
They've figured out a way to make this shelf-stable frosting that is the most delicious, contains the best fake flavors that you can ever find, and they last for 5 years in a can. I mean, they're horrible. They're horrible for us. They're gross. It's frosting.
I'll tell you what I don't have on a cupcake is sprinkles. I can't do it.
I don't like sprinkles.
Oh my god, my spirit. I know you like sprinkles because you buy cupcakes from a sprinkle place.
Yeah, but only like the ones that blend in with the frosting.
No.
Oh no, I can't do the crunch. I can't do
I
anything.
don't like crunchy sprinkles.
Sprinkles to me is just like it's just a waste of like space. I don't know.
However, some sprinkles on ice cream, maybe, but they have to be the chewy sprinkles.
Chewy sprinkles. Yeah. Maybe I might be able to get down with a chewy sprinkle.
I don't like crunchy sprinkles.
No.
Just they just always taste the same, and they're kind of plasticky, and they take away from the flavor of everything else.
Yeah. How do you eat a cupcake? Do you have any special tips?
I don't like frosting.
You don't like frosting?
No, I've completely OD'd on frosting. So if I eat a cupcake, it's a cupcake that doesn't have a tower of frosting on it, and I usually take frosting off if it does have a tower of frosting, and then I have just enough frosting so that I can have the flavor of the frosting. But I like ice cream. I like cake. I like fillings. I like lots of
I love ice cream.
stuff.
I can get down with ice cream.
I like a cupcake that is filled that then has a topping and then has like a little schmear of frosting.
A little schmear. I like that word too, by the way. To get back to words is like my buddy and I always describe, like when we're trying to tell chefs about like how to make good food in kitchens, we always say wet food, and I think it throws people off as well. We're like, what do you mean wet food? We're like, no, like make sure your food is wet. Like, you know, and I think it throws a loop to people, but like the last thing you want is dry food. Right, so we always emphasize like wet, like it has to be like saucy or you know, it has to have some juices involved in it, right?
You can't just have like dry rocks.
No,
like,
it can't
or
be
food piles when you start talking about food
yeah,
piles.
exactly.
And they're like, isn't all food in a pile? I'm like, yeah, but you don't want just like like think like colored sand that you're mixing to put in the glass. You don't want your food to look like that.
Yeah.
However, I do love a good TV dinner, and those are food piles.
Ooh, see, you like some of these old school things.
Oh yeah,
You do like the like. When's the last time you had a TV dinner?
I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, remember that craze where chefs were making TV dinners?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah,
I really think that we should all open automats. That'd be so much fun.
That would be fun.
Be so cute.
I would like that.
Mm-hmm. And then we don't have to talk to anybody because then we're just behind.
That's
so
it.
We can still be chefy and just smile. And
Yeah, we have robots with technology these days that can make it happen for us. We have AI that can talk to the customers.
Put your quarter in.
Yeah. So I mean, I want to get more. I want to get back into Sticky Fingers and where you're going now with the business, because you dropped the full service restaurant.
I closed a restaurant. So in December, this is fantastic. In the end of December, we closed Columbia Heights, which is where our Sticky Fingers Bakery. We closed Sticky Fingers Bakery Cafe.
Yeah.
And then we moved everything we built a manufacturing facility that has a very small retail footprint. And then about 3 weeks after that, I closed the restaurant.
Okay, so so when was it? In December?
It was December, January, and February. It was all just like
done. Was that like why close the restaurant? To COVID?
Ooh, so many reasons. The main reason, like I can give you 1,000 whys.
Yeah.
But the main reason is in order to really create a strong brand that's doing a lot of things, right? You have to centralize.
Yeah.
Right. And the brand for me is the bakery.
Yeah.
So we brought everything that we were doing and kind of into one location and all of our resources. I'm a small business.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I have a C-suite of 4 people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We don't have offices.
No, that's probably better not to have any offices.
We have a 8-foot bench that we stand and work at.
Good. That's the way it should be. I tell people I try to build restaurants now with no offices in it.
It's genius.
Yeah, just
Or flooring.
I don't want people sitting in the office anymore.
No, flooring is a waste of money.
Yeah.
Ceiling tiles, waste of money.
Yes, lots of that.
Yeah, we have to put
all
ceiling
about
tiles in.
value engineering the concepts these days, because you just spend too much money that you're gonna 5 years down the road you're gonna have to repair.
Yeah.
People don't give a shit about the flooring.
Nope.
People don't care about this. They really don't. There's so much things that I thought people cared about in this industry. Like, you always want to build the restaurant with all the bells and whistles, right? This is my color palette. And I still do some of this stuff, but I mean, I just went overload, and people just don't care about that stuff.
No, not everybody knows if all of the silverware matches.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless somebody's looking at all the silverware.
Right. I mean, you have those, and they'll write to you, and they'll Yelp about it, I'm sure. But
yeah. Or we had 5 different types of wine glasses at our table. And
yeah.
Yeah.
So what in this industry, what excites you about, not just your place, but what excites you about the industry right now, and what as well in the same what is it? What do you hate about the industry? Like what? Let's start there. I think we'll have a little bit more fun. Like what?
Complaining, my favorite.
Yeah. Like what? Let's Yelp ourselves right now. Like what? What are you just done with? And like, what do we don't have to use like such a
the
harsh,
exhaustion,
like,
right?
hate,
what exhausts me about
what
the
exhausts
culture,
you exactly?
Specifically with restaurants and full service.
Yeah.
The exhaustion is the lack of understanding from the public's perspective of how it works and how it comes together.
Yeah.
And especially post-pandemic, all of the issues that we've been through. So I feel like I've been fighting for 5 years. So when it came time to close the restaurant, there was no like, it wasn't like, oh my God, you know, like my baby. It was like, oh my God. Like, fine, let's just, now can we just close the doors? We actually have to, we have to 3 more weeks. Like, we've just been fighting for so long to recreate something that has been something that we love, but also such a huge part of our culture, right?
Yeah.
And there's such a shift in the way that restaurants are working and functioning, and people can't see that from where they are. And that's part of what we do is like nothing happening over here. It's like smoke and mirrors, right?
Yeah.
And then suddenly there's this gorgeous meal and it's this really fun place and the energy is perfect. And that takes a lot of people and a lot of commitment. And one person having a bad day can take all that away from you.
That's true.
And
it's a fragile industry.
It is a fragile industry. And
but yet resilient in some other ways, but very fragile.
Right, and I think those of us who are here and still creating and growing are the resilient ones who are like, oh, I want to ride this out and see where it's going. I don't, for me, for what I'm doing with my business, you have to remember that my business is also mission-based, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't just like, I love food, I want to make a restaurant. Because if I did that, I probably would have made pizza.
Yes.
And maybe some pancakes, but
we'll have to talk to you about this commissary stuff. Is that because you have a centralized commissary at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As I'm thinking about it, for I have this vision. I want to open up more pizzerias now, right? It's just like I'm done with all the other stuff.
The full service is hard. Well,
I've been out of full service for a little while, but I'm just done playing the chef celebrity game, if you will.
How many chefs have you talked to in the past 3 months who have been in the same position that you are, where they had the fine dining or elevated experience restaurants, and now they are doing fast casual and expanding? Because I can probably think of 7.
Yeah, almost every single chef I know these days. I think we were a little bit of trailblazers in 2008, where our family opened up Good Stuff Eatery. First recession had hit. Well, in my lifetime, like the big recession had hit, and everyone was going. Didn't have these huge corporate accounts or corporate cards to spend on fine dining. So you saw a lot of fine dining closures. But you were also looking for. People were looking for value and comfort during the recession, right? They wanted to be at this price point that was appropriate. They wanted to still have deliciousness and food, and that's kind of where Good Stuff Eatery was born. Is we kind of looked at the market, and obviously I have my folks that are been in the business for a while, and we're like, what about the better burger movement? You got like McDonald's, you got all these other places. Chipotle was a thing, and I think we were, looking at this fast casual model, which wasn't a term that really had been played out yet, right?
No, because everybody just thought it was McDonald's and Burger King.
Exactly.
Like, what if you took it a little bit higher?
They were confusing fast food with fast casual, and like really the difference between that is like the supply chain, like how you get the food to the plate or to the client, right? And so fast casual would be you're more making things in house, like your sauces and things like that, and then fast food is like you're just ordering from a purveyor, they're dropping it off, you're packaging it and sending it. I'd say Panera Bread was probably the first to really coin the fast casual term and really drive it home, right? They were ahead of their times. They took this idea of a bread bakery and said, hey, well, people love sandwiches. Let's our authority be on our bread baking, and we'll make sandwiches, right? Mm-hmm. With this delicious bread and soups and so forth. And so, when we opened up Good Stuff and then finally We the Pizza and so forth, it provided a, quality of life that was different from the fine dining restaurant, right? Where you weren't really like handcuffed to your stove or your kitchen. There's different type of dedication to the fast casual restaurant. And you got to be creative. You got to be much more of an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. You really, where I'd say, chefs had one step out of their kitchen. Now they could take 2 full steps out of their kitchen
Yep.
and venture off to do other things that they really want to do. Like I just had Victor on the podcast, and he it's so funny. He spent so much time developing what was the restaurant he had, the smoky one,
Del Posto.
no, it wasn't Del Posto, but was it Del Posto?
It's so funny, the smoky one. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Everything was smoked.
Everything was smoked. Victor, I love him, but it was so his side gig was Taco Bamba, right? Like he wasn't even paying attention to that concept. He's like, oh, we'll just do a taqueria, and I'm just gonna do it just to do it. And it turns out that that's where it was. That's where it was.
He still gets to be creative, and he still can create different menus at every single location.
Exactly, which is what he does. He's having huge success with this new model, and even for him for taking it one step further, like he I'm sure there was others doing it, but he really pushed outside of urban locations, right? He chased that lower rent. I remember going to his first location, and he told me, like, gave me the address, and I was in a Whole Foods parking lot. I was like, I can't fucking find you. Where are you?
Like Fairfax.
I was like, I'm staring at the Whole Foods. He's like, no. He's like, I'm behind the Whole Foods.
Yeah.
I'm like, did I just hit something?
Aww.
Birds. Let me turn the birds off. Sorry.
That.
Did you like that? I have a little thing here. See? Ooh.
And then Taco Bamba was
born. And I remember telling her, I was like, no, I'm like behind. I'm like, oh, so I go around and it was like some shitty alley with some shitty strip mall. And sure enough, there's like a line out the door.
Out the door. It's loud.
It's loud, obnoxious. Totally. All the things you were told not to do in the business, he did.
And all the things that I'm very, very jealous. I could never get away with that. As a vegan, as a woman, those two things, people would be like, how dare she be so loud?
Yeah. Change all your menus at every location?
But I want only this thing.
Yeah. And so, it threw me for a loop because...
1 star.
Yeah.
One star.
But it threw me for a loop because, like Victor was the first chef that when I arrived in DC, I came from New York and I came on a high horse. I was just on Top Chef. I was a New York City chef. I was like, oh, DC, small city. I remember saying something like in the press that like killed me. I was like, I'm like a big fish in a small pond or something like that. And the press like tore me. I had to like hand out free hugs to anybody that I insulted for like 3 weeks. But he was the first chef to come welcome me to DC, and I always remember that. And he's to this day one of my best friends. And but he at first he started coming to a lot of advice about fast casual to me, right? Because we were doing it, and then but I was so happy to see him bust out and like reinvent the industry too a little bit, to some degree, where it's like he's paying these cheaper rents, great locations, great customers. He's changing menus. He's got loud music. I remember he says, "It's like I think I'm going to put a bar in the next Taco Bamba." I was like, "I put a bar in the." I was like, "Victor."
He puts it like right in the middle.
Yeah, I was like, "Victor, you're going to go out of business." No one. I was like, my liquor sales are like, my beer and wine sales are 0.5% at my restaurants. It doesn't go with fast casual.
Right.
It's like, he's like, I'm doing it, and it worked out great.
And everybody sits in the middle of the square bar and eats tacos.
Exactly.
And sings heavy metal.
It just goes to show you, man. I was like, if go with your own intuition in life and business, right? And you're gonna fall down plenty of times. You're gonna take the licks as they come. But if you're just true to yourself and you have the passion and that comes through in your restaurant, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's kind of what moves the needle.
We just made it sound really easy, like.
Yeah.
He just goes and decides to do these things, and it totally works.
Like, it's not easy. Disclaimer.
You're also talking about like what is that? Like 15 years now that he's been working on this.
Well, yeah, no, I mean he's had a lifetime of being in the restaurant industry.
Huge group. A huge
group behind
system,
him,
a huge
big time
group behind him.
Yeah,
it's not one guy.
But it all started with one risky idea.
Yeah, he's the one that pushes the needle a little bit, and then he's like, "Come on, guys, we'll do it." And he's got a crew of people that are like, "You know what?
Yeah,
I think what he's saying is right. And if not, we're gonna try it out anyways." And like that's what you need. You need one person or 15 to be like, "I don't know, but let's try it." And they're all on board, and they're all working for that one goal.
Yeah,
and that's what takes any business to get to the next level, right? Like if you're scattered, if you're working on the fast casual over here, and restaurant groups are a little bit different, right? Because those are spokes, right? So you still have that one centralized focus, that one goal. And then a lot of times they're working together and utilizing each other's resources. So restaurant groups look like they're just throwing a bunch of stuff out there, but they're all working together.
All working together. Shared services.
It's a machine.
Yeah.
I thought that I wanted a restaurant group. I was like, I'm going to do that. I want 5 different concepts within my idea, right?
Yeah.
And then I realized that, oh my gosh, I'm only one person.
Yeah.
And I don't have a giant team.
Yeah.
I don't have a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Yet.
And maybe never if you choose not to, right? I think, what people misunderstand is you have to choose the lifestyle that you want, right? And align that. It sounds silly, but you have to you have to think about that before getting into the industry and what the concept you're going to do.
Oh yeah, if you want kids, if you want a life outside of this, if you would like to travel, like you need to set it up so that you can do that. And there's absolute trade-off. Yeah. And I don't care. And you can totally be a mom and a dad, and you can totally do it. You absolutely can, but there's going to be a trade-off, and sometimes that's really hard. It's really hard.
It's so hard. We're gonna continue talking and chatting, but you know what?
I think I see what's happening.
I made you a little pizza.
I'm so excited.
Try one of these. Which one do you want? Just take a sip. You gotta tell me how you feel about this. It's the only sponsor I have. But besides with pizza,
besides your own pizza.
Yeah, our 2 sponsors here are the ones that I.
Oh, that's delicious.
The companies that I own. So say it again. So I made
I
made you vegan pizza. This might be controversial here when I open the box, but we'll see. I didn't put any cheese on it.
Oh, it's one of those pizzas.
It's one of those. And you know what? I might ask for your help here in this on when I want to make another vegan pizza, because we do have a vegan pizza at the restaurant, but it's a no cheese pizza. And if you do research, there's actually a lot of no cheese pizzas out there in the world that are quite delicious. You requested mushrooms, so we did it. We got mushrooms, we got some tomatoes, we got some peppers. Please.
It's round.
It's round. It's got burnt edges. It's got a little char on the bottom. Fresh dough every day. But I haven't. I found a cheese that I love using at Plant Burger, because we have cheeseburgers at Plant Burger. Have you been to Plant Burger yet? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and there's some great cheeses there. I've not found a cheese that melts the way I would want it to on a pizza yet. The closest I've gone to is Miyoko's has a pour cheese now.
Which is a really difficult thing to get into your brain, is you are now going to pour this cheese. So that is one of the things when if you go to business school, which I didn't, but turns out they tell you if you can come up with a concept for a new thing, right, that's where you can really blow it out of the water.
Yeah.
Something that nobody's ever thought of before. And then you're like, wait, but pourable cheese, is that really, I don't know. It's difficult for people to wrap their head around. I think it's been a hard push because really people want the shreds, and we were one of the first people to get a sample of when Daya was, before it was Daya, when they were first starting to just test it and put it out there. We were one of the first people to take test packs, and it's very different than what it was, right? But it was the first meltable cheese, and it was created for pizza places. It was because X% of whatever the research was, right? X% of pizzas from Domino's are ordered without cheese because of allergies, right? And so that was where they were going to enter the market, and it was a Canadian company.
Those Canadians,
so smart.
Those Canucks, I tell you. I don't. If it's a hot coming out of the oven, I've had some success with some of these vegan cheeses on pizza specifically, because there's some really delicious artisanal vegan cheeses out there in the market now that people are making in the classic way of making cheese, which I mean, it's not just like potato starch. But it's after it cools down is where they lose me. The reheat on it is not great, for instance.
It's it's a lot of them are plasticky. So you do, in order to create the meltiness.
Oh, that was you guys hear that? I hope you guys are all hungry out there on the other side of this. Oh, yeah. The,
Are we going to talk with our mouths full? Because that's how
this is what we do
Yeah.
here. That's part of the podcast. Yeah,
I
we
never stop talking.
we let Jason get in some words here while we eat a little bit. No, I'm just your mic's not on, so don't even worry about it. Well, I'll put it on. Give me a second. Yeah, I mean there you go. Cheese, pizza with no cheese. It's vegan. It's got mushrooms on it.
But it's not exciting for people, and it's not going to convince people who are not vegan to eat the pizza unless they really love vegetables, are trying to eat less cheese,
Yeah.
or have grown up with eating pizza that does not have cheese on it,
Yeah.
which doesn't happen in this country, right? So that's where the crossover is difficult. If you're thinking about it from my perspective, which is, I want everybody to be able to. It's my cookie doesn't suck, right?
Yeah.
This pizza is delicious.
Yeah.
It does not suck. But if you think of like all pizza has to have cheese, then this is going to be a hard crossover.
Then this
to
sucks for
somebody
people.
who-
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be difficult to wrap their head around.
I never make this pizza on a round. This specific vegan pizza, it's on we make it on Sicilian dough.
I buy those.
Oh, you do? The one that we the pizza? Oh, okay, so you've had it. So I decided just to do it on a round today because I knew you were coming. I was like,
My question was, because I even had this problem reheating it, how do you, when you have a cheeseless pizza, how do you get the toppings to stay on the dough once it's cooked and not, kind of like, keep them in place?
Like this or with.
Well, even with this one, there are still, is there like a trick or?
what do you mean? What do you mean?
No, they fall off.
Yeah.
That's my point. How do you get them so they don't fall off?
You have to eat it fast.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, what do you want? Put like
No, well,
toothpicks
well,
on
cheese is also kind of
toothpicks
like a-
on every.
No, cheese is also kind
Oh,
of
because
like-
it holds it together.
Yeah, that's
The
what-
binding is. I see where you're going with this. No, I mean, like, listen, like you know,
doing a Sicilian one is probably makes it a little bit more stable. It's like a rectangle.
Sicilian is more stable because again, like
It's like the casseroles of pizzas.
exactly. It's got a
Kugel.
it's got a good it's not a bottomless pizza. It's not falling or anything. These are triangles.
I love
Yes, they are.
casseroles.
I love casseroles too.
Though
Casseroles
I
are
wanted
my
to
favorite.
ask, what's in your goodie box?
Oh, my goodie box.
Yeah, so we're done with the pizza. Thank you, We the Pizza.
I can't eat any more pizza?
No, I mean we're
Okay.
done talking. I mean we're done.
Thanks, We the Pizza.
No, you can have as much pizza as you want. This is all for you. But if you take it home, you might not have any toppings, like Jason said.
They'll fall off, and then I'll have to put them back on.
Yeah,
Well, regular, I still call it fake cheese because
yeah,
fake cheese versus real cheese, which it's just cheese. But the vegan cheeses, it took a long time. That's where I think a lot of people are still holding out. There are a lot of great artisanal cheeses, but in order to get that melt, you have to have something that does that.
Yeah.
And the only way to do it outside of traditional dairy milk is with starches. Like
Yeah.
you said, when it's not all potato starch, right?
yeah, exactly.
So if you use tapioca starch or potato starch, they're not going to melt or brown the same way. And so in order to make it melt and cheesy and stringy, you actually use carrageenan, which is used, and then there's two different types that you can use, and then there's one that's actually used in ice cream a lot to get that like nice smooth mouthfeel. But then the issue is that it's not necessarily going to melt at the same temperature, and that's what Daya, however you pronounce it, that's what they were trying to do, is create a cheese that melted at the same temperature that's still browned.
Yeah,
And I will tell you the best cheese pizza in this city that is vegan.
yeah. Tell me. I can't wait. I'm gonna go.
It's an Ethiopian pizza place in Adams Morgan.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Really? I don't know about this place.
Oh my God, we're gonna have to go.
Yes, my wife would probably love
It's
to
fantastic.
check it out. Ethiopian place, huh?
Yeah.
Is that like
Are they-
Ethiopian
I'm
pizza
saying
or
it's
just Ethiopian
no.
owned?
I'm saying Ethiopian. They may be Eritrean, so I don't want to hurt any feelings. I should probably.
That's okay. Stop being so soft out there. It's okay. We can hurt feelings here.
Yeah. They're
We're filming in DC Central Kitchen. We're do-gooders. By the way, your first visit here.
my first visit here.
Yeah. I know you know the organization.
Yeah,
You've done
worked
stuff.
with the organization, and I've done a bunch of. How many
Food fights?
food fights? Yeah. What else? Thank you for reading my mind because
They,
I was like chewing and trying to ask questions. I'm
I
like,
think
what are
we're-
the other?
I think we're doing our 30th anniversary 20th anniversary this year.
But there's what else besides food fight? There's other.
Well, they do. What do you mean besides food fight? I mean, they're here every day.
I mean, I know that they don't just pop up.
No, I don't know. I don't know if I think that's their
That's
one.
not that's the big event that they
That's
do.
their one big fundraiser of the year, right? Yeah,
The largest one.
the largest fundraiser, and they do a bunch of small other things, but you know, basically, you know, for those listening to the podcast here, we are sitting in DC Central Kitchen, the new facility. Their program is amazing here. I've worked with them for over a decade. We've hired graduates right out of here. By the way, I don't know.
Same.
Yeah, exactly. So, and some of them have been the best,
Yep.
you know, and are still with us to this day. But really, it's about giving, you know, formerly incarcerated people their second chance, third chance, fourth chance, however many chances they need to kind of make their life better and have a little bit more purpose there and have a job. So they put them through, I think it's a 12-week job training program. It might be a few weeks more, a few or less, but it's right around there. And then while they go through this epic job training program, they're making meals that feed the homeless and now even schools.
Yep. Genius. That is so genius.
Right? Isn't it amazing? And
Cafeterias are shutting down in every single school and trying to find, there were so many different services for a while that were competing
Yep.
for the school dollars, right? But you don't know where these meals are coming from, or the businesses didn't have necessarily have good reputations.
They don't have a good reputation, and they also their
focus was to make money off of the food, which
exactly, which compromises the quality of the food, the portion sizes, and they just take advantage of the system. So an organization like this comes in, and it's you know their mission is you know for the good, and they're not. And I've actually created recipes that are at schools right now. So like one of the recipes I created is a mushroom bolognese. And I just got just you know about 30 minutes ago, they just told me that the first mushroom bolo has hit schools, and they've had rave reviews. You know, kids don't even know it's mushrooms because we disguise them. We serve a couple meatballs with it as well, but the sauce is mushroom bolognese, and it's pretty interesting. I ended up, you know, had a snack company, which was before Just Iced Tea, and we were doing mushroom jerky. It's called Eat the Change. Did you what?
The carrots.
And the carrots. So both of those lines, unfortunately, are being discontinued to make room for Just Iced Tea, which has become like 90% of our business now.
Really?
So yeah, it's sales are going crazy.
It's kind of the same thing. Like you just can't get away from the iced tea.
Just can't get away from the iced tea. And but so through that transition, I have hundreds and thousands of pounds of dried mushrooms, because I bought a massive inventory of dried mushrooms. So to make mushroom jerky,
You're like the largest mushroom holder.
I probably hold the largest inventory of dried mushrooms in the world right now.
What kind?
Yeah, they're creminis, portobellos, and button mushrooms. It's a mix. But it's a pretty interesting story because I'll tell you because it's
DC school system is going these kids are going to grow up on mushrooms.
They're going to love it. So you know, when I first started making the mushroom jerky, it was super artisanal style of mushroom jerky, right? And I would buy fresh mushrooms from Kenneth Square, Pennsylvania. You know, mushroom capital of the world, by the way, if you guys don't know that. For no reason. It's not the terroir. It's just all indoor. But mushroom capital of the world is in Kenneth Square, Pennsylvania.
How far are they from Hershey, Pennsylvania?
They're like right there.
How far from like the Lindt chocolate factory?
Like you could throw a mushroom.
There's something happening in that
There's
area.
something going on over there, right? And so I'd buy fresh mushrooms, and for those that don't know, mushrooms are probably like over 90% water weight, right? So very water efficient crop, if you will. So and the way you buy mushrooms is based on weight. So I would pay, our purveyor for mushrooms with the water in it. And then that load would travel all the way to my co-packer, right, which was in the middle of Indiana, where I would process the mushroom. And so the processing of the mushroom was taking the mushrooms, making it with a marinade, and then putting them on racks and dehydrating them. But then my toll price, right, because you have to pay a toll for those out there when you're co-packing, would be the weight of the mushrooms with all the water in it. And then the weight of the marinade that I added on it, right? So, so both of those weight combined was what I was paying per pound. Only to come out with a product which had 0% yield because 90% of the weight that I just paid for evaporates in thin air because it's water, right? And I was doing this for months, and I was like getting these bills from our co-packer for hundreds of $1,000s, right? I was getting hundreds of thousands. I was getting a bill.
Like a torturous lesson.
It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. But we're in the business, right? So you're like, wait a second, like I gotta try to figure this out. So what I figured out to do, which made the business right, was I figured, hey, Phillips Farms has the mushrooms. Let me dehydrate them there in bulk, right? Let me just take all the water weight for the fraction of the price that the co-packer was going to charge me. So now the new model was like, all right, I'm buying from Kenneth Square, but you guys are going to dehydrate them for 25 cents a pound.
Dehydrators there.
They did. They had these mass dehydrators, right? Not like the ones that make jerky, but just to get the mushrooms with no water in it, shelf stable. And then I would have all these dehydrated mushrooms, right? And then I'd be able to ship 10 times more in a truck because they didn't have the water weight in them across the country. And now the co-packer would take them, add water to rehydrate them, which was free, and then add the marinades. And then so I started getting $10,000 bills. So we went from hundreds of $1,000s to 10,000s for processing the same amount of mushrooms in the same product. So then to get ahead, I was like, oh, we're gonna get ahead of it. We're gonna just dry a ton of mushrooms. So that's what we ended up doing. We ended up drying like thousands of pounds of mushrooms, only to have iced tea come back in my life, and we discontinued the product, which left me with a ton of mushrooms. So what did I do? I came to one of the best organizations I know, which is right here, DC Central Kitchen. I said, listen, I have thousands of pounds of dried mushrooms.
Can't waste it.
I can't waste it because I care. Food waste. I care. Right? I can't waste it. I could sell you these mushrooms for a really good price. Great. And I'll teach you on how to make a mushroom bolo.
I think we're going to be carrying some mushroom Danish soon.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, I got mushrooms for you.
Perfect.
By the way, to make mushroom bolo, dried mushrooms are evidently the best way to make a mushroom bolo because you crush them up, you toast them with onions and garlic and herbs, and then you add liquid. Right, and it sounds stupid, and then you'll buzz it at the end, but it actually turns out to be the best mushroom bolo I've ever made. I've never made a mushroom bolo with fresh mushrooms that was better than the one I'm making with dried mushrooms now. But
yeah, it absorbs all of the flavor.
It absorbs all the flavors, exactly.
They're such good vehicles.
It's such a good vehicle. They're amazing. They're just amazing things.
And they're so cute.
It was really good. I had it this summer.
Oh, you did?
You were making it.
Oh, I was about to say, dude, I thought you were done with school, but you had it. You were here. You were here in the studio.
Yeah, it was really good, and I don't like mushrooms, and it didn't taste like mushrooms.
You can't tell the difference.
Can't tell the difference.
Yeah, so kids, I mean, we're feeding kids delicious food. So to get back to DC Central Kitchen, they put forward real quality food and meals. They don't skip the steps. They do the nutritional panels on them so the kids know what they're doing, and I couldn't be happy to be partners with them. So I hope you get to come here and do some more stuff with them eventually.
I'm excited to figure out how I can make, I don't know, something. Yeah, you can anything.
Do. Yeah, they're open to anything.
I always veer towards baking, but we're not necessarily going to put cookies and brownies in the meals.
They need cookies.
They need fun.
They need cookies and brownies and especially flourless ones, sugarless ones.
Really sugarless, they're delicious.
Yeah.
Maybe you've tried them. They're called crackers.
Yeah.
There's a way that, right? And like the thing that brought me here isn't just like cookies, right? Like it's all of what you were talking about, like, through the restaurant, through, the path for you to get to, I have to dehydrate the mushrooms, right? Like, it's so fascinating, this industry, right? That can take us from a coffee counter, or like, I'm going to make a cookie, or I'm going to make a pizza, or I'm going to make this like fine French food with all these processes. And then you're at distribution and food science and understanding that, the term last mile, and like how to get things from one place to the next. And
last mile. I just was a meeting this morning. The guy used it 5 times. Last mile. I was like,
there's a great
mile.
business that we found when we went to Expo. I think the business might be called Last Mile Trucking, and it's a marketing company that they basically put like whatever company, whatever branding it is, on all the last mile trucks, right? So nobody really owns the last mile trucks.
Yeah.
Or you don't necessarily want to, and everybody's going through brokers now, right? So there's all these different brokerage firms that are all trying to share stuff.
Yeah.
And so they wrap the last mile trucks. So for like however much, you can have these last mile trucks wrapped. Now there might be like there might be dehydrated mushrooms in your Sticky Fingers truck.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter. It's the marketing, the branding,
the
because
marketing.
that's also where people see it.
Yeah.
And I was in love with this company. I'm like, it's genius.
Yeah.
And then they make these little plastic trucks that have your wrapped branding on it to show you, so you never forget them, and that's their business card. And I was like, you guys
I
are
love
so
it.
smart.
They are smart because you never see, most of this mass transit happens when everyone's sleeping, like the big trucks, like the Dot Foods or the Unify,
And
Cisco.
the most expensive aspect of it and the most inefficient aspect of it is the water weight.
Oh, yeah.
In anything that you're doing.
Big time. Try to stay away from water, people.
Everything.
You don't want to ship water around the world.
Don't bottle your water.
No.
Just fill it up over here.
Yeah, guys. Microplastics. It's a real thing.
Yep.
Although we have plastic here on the table. It's okay, though.
It's better. We're getting better.
We're getting better.
That's
Listen, we just had, how was the pizza, first of all?
delicious.
It was
I love
delicious?
it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Crust
Bruce.
is fantastic.
So what's your second favorite pizza place in D.C.? Where's your go-to? Forget pizza place. What restaurants do you
my
like?
go-to?
Yeah, like give me a couple. I want to get into all these delicious. By the way, I haven't had anybody bring me a whole Canberra of goodies before, and I am super stoked for it. So I want to get to that.
Really funny right now. I'm like, I don't know, where do I eat? I don't know what I eat. Like,
If someone asked me that question, by the way, I'd be so mad at them too.
I love
be like,
Chico.
why are you putting? Oh, I love Chico too.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said them, Scott Jr. We got to get them on the podcast.
Danny,
Dan.
Danny can make anything, and I'll
I love those good.
eat. I mean, he makes a lot of vegan stuff, right? Like in Korean food, I love it. I
Yeah.
love the Asian style of any type of Asian style of cooking. Like, I don't care. I know I sound really white saying that, but
Yeah.
I really mean it. Like,
Yeah.
it could be Szechuan or it could be.
Vietnamese, you like Vietnamese?
Yes.
I'm a huge Vietnamese guy.
Apparently, there's a new vegan Vietnamese place out in Falls Church.
Oh, yes, there is, and I've heard about it. This is not the one you're talking about, an Eden Center, right?
I think it is.
Oh, yeah. So then I have been to it. I love it. Yeah.
Eden Center has the tofu place. They have the lemongrass tofu and the mushroom
I've
tofu.
been going to Eden Center probably. The first. So before I moved to DC, I left my Vietnamese restaurant in New York City. I had been on this Vietnamese tear for about 3 years. Had like this chef that traveled me all across Vietnam, taught me his mother's food, and we opened, I don't know, like 5 different restaurants in New York City that were all Vietnamese.
What?
So yeah, I have a huge Vietnamese background, as you may not
I can tell.
see. Yeah, exactly. But so I love Vietnamese food, and the first place we sought out when we came here was Vietnamese food. And it led us to Eden Center, and we love it over there. I mean, I've been going there since day one. It's just like a small little piece of Vietnam that just fell off like in the middle of Virginia. Honestly, you guys, if you haven't been there, you got to go check it out and do a little discovery. Don't be afraid to step in and open a couple doors. Go in the market. Yeah.
They have the largest vegetable sections that you've ever seen in your life. And when people are like, it's scamp season, and then you go in there and it's like, or scampscapes and like garlic scapes that are like giant fronds that are like this big, and you're like, where have I been? What is? And you're like, you go to your little garden and you get these little things.
Yeah.
And you go on like, there's a menu and they have like, sauteed, it's delicate, beautiful little fronds, and they're like, oh, they're just so perfect and delicate. And then you go to this place and they're like monsters.
They have such unbelievable fresh exotic ingredients there that by the way, it's a Vietnamese place, but there's one Thai restaurant there too. Have you been there?
No.
There's one little Thai
I
restaurant.
don't think so.
It's in like that little mall area, with the little kiosks everywhere.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm talking about? So and it's it was written about actually in the Washington Post, which I'm pretty surprised that they have the article on the window, but go check it out. It's got 4 seats in there. Exactly. That's how small it is.
In the cute little bakeries.
Great little bakeries. I love it there. I used to live right by there, and I'd start my morning off with my son. When he woke up early, we'd go there, and I'd get a Vietnamese coffee, and we'd get some fresh spring rolls, like 9 a.m. And we'd walk around the mall with spring rolls and Ngoc Cham in our hands.
Do you know what's in Vietnamese coffee?
Yeah.
Tea.
Tea.
I had no idea.
Yeah. A little bit of tea and Café du Monde if you're using it the right way, and then condensed milk as well.
Blew my mind.
I know.
was like, what?
Have you been to Vietnam?
No. I would like to go now, please.
What a great country.
Yeah.
One of the best countries I've been to.
It's on the list.
I mean, from the people to the markets to the freshness of the foods. I mean, it's street food. Everything's about street food. And I don't think I went into
a podcast there, and then we can go.
Maybe I should.
And then I'll be the vegan eater.
Yes.
And you'll just be like, you know what?
I mean, you'll be the regular eater. Like, they have some of the freshest vegetable. Like, they have so many options there. You know, but
I wouldn't want to take away from everybody else's experience, so you have to bring me.
Yes. We should just do a culinary trip there. That'd be amazing. But I mean, back to Danny and Scott Juno, who started this whole thing that we're on Asian ingredients. Is I love that they put vegetables in vegan foods, and because usually, I would, I took my wife, which is vegan. Obviously, we talked about it a million times on this podcast, but I took her to Honey Pig once. Do you know? Have you been, at the Korean barbecue place?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, never been there.
There was nothing on the menu for her, so
Nope,
don't
there
go.
isn't.
Don't go there.
When we went to Seoul, we had people with us that were explaining how we ate, what we ate, and then would tell us what we could eat, right?
Yeah.
Like wherever it was, and it was often like all these different facial expressions of like, what the hell? Why would they do that? That's so stupid. Okay, and then we would get these awesome, amazing meals, and it was just separate from the meat, right? And
in Vietnam, the lady, the people come out and they will make your summer rolls for you at tableside. So they'll take the rice paper, they'll dip it in the hot water. It's like little carts. You love carts?
I love carts.
They'll roll the cart out.
It's like a little dim sum, right?
And they'll wet they'll wet the rice paper, and then they'll put the noodle, the vermicelli in there, and they'll put if it's vegetarian, it'll be tofu and the fresh herbs galore, all sorts of exotic herbs that we don't have here in the United States. And they'll roll them up, and they're
if
hot.
One more person tells me that they don't like the flavor of licorice, and then they'll be like, I don't like that herb, it tastes like licorice. They don't like that herb, it tastes like licorice. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
You're out of fired.
Done. Out.
Fired.
Bye.
I mean, do I get to taste some of these
sorry.
goodies?
As you keep saying that, I'm like, what? And let's talk about more food.
No, just,
All right. So we have a bakery, and we have catered to local DC, right? So the local aspect is where we get to do our fresh pastry. So we have strawberry Danish with cream cheese, and we use a variety of cream cheeses. Right now, that's probably tofuti.
Oh, tofuti. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Tofuti is a great product.
They've been around for 1,000,001 years.
It's there's a couple products out there that are finally getting their shine that have been out there for a while, and this is one of them, right? Like one of these brands. Like,
but they were created for people who were keeping kosher and being able to mix dairy, non-dairy stuff with whatever. I guess so they could all make a lobster bisque is really why tofuti cream cheese was created.
You just keep talking about the food because I'm in my mouth. Wow.
So tofuti cream cheese. There's
so fresh pastries for the locals.
Pastries. Yep. So we do laminated doughs because they're fun. There are definitely places where you could we could pre-purchase laminated dough now that happens to be vegan, but we really enjoy the process of making it for better or for worse.
Tell people what laminated dough is.
Laminated dough is
because by the way, I've been lately, my whole thing now is following these accounts, these baking accounts. I'll probably have to share a couple with you.
Yes, please.
There's this guy in France that has like this one earring and curly hair. He's like a French guy.
That guy.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No. I don't.
But he does these laminated doughs. And like he's a picture of him, like he dumps the bowl onto the table, and then he puts it through the laminator. Are you
watching these on YouTube?
No, I'm still doing the Instagram thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just love how it takes 10 minutes or like 30 seconds on Instagram, and really the whole
that's
process
what it is.
4 days.
Let's not unpack that because you can get me going for hours on like how
he makes it look good.
This world makes everything look so easy, and it's not. Yep. But there's just something like therapeutic about just seeing the fold and the thing. But tell people what laminated doughs are.
Yeah, so it's a yeasted dough, right? And you create it as if you are going to make bread. But then you start punching it down, and before it actually starts to rise, you add a factual shit ton of fat to it. So whether it's butter, or in our case, we use Earth Balance products.
Okay.
So they're very buttery flavored. They use the same, very similar, very close to the same melt points. Their hydration points are kind of off, and that's where it can get tricky sometimes. But you create books, right? So you take the dough and you put the fat in it, and it has to be cold, and then you fold it over and you make a book, right? So just think like a book, and then you make an envelope. There's just different processes to
You
do
just
it.
keep folding
You
it.
just keep folding and folding, and that's how you get like a mille-feuille, right? It's a million layers or 1,000 layers.
Oh, millefeuille.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mille-feuille.
Millefeuille.
I think I said it. I think I just said little girl instead of like 1,000
did
layers.
you just say
but
milf? Milf?
It's-
Millefeuille?
It's the MILF pastry. It's also vegan. So
Wow, this is delicious. This is great. The look at this. Look at this. This.
I know you can count them.
I know.
I really like to cheat the system and find ways to make more of a biscuit style dough that will still fake a croissant. It doesn't work. I've tried it a million times. It never works. So you end up just getting this like fluffy product. But
This
it still
is-
tastes good.
Yeah.
I'm not patient enough to really make those. I'll make them like once or twice. I really, old actual Danish recipes, and not just Danish, the food.
Yeah.
Danish baking
Where do you
recipes.
get Where do you get your inspiration for this stuff? Like what's your
Food.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I want to eat it, then we figure out a way to make it, and it's not just me anymore.
Yeah.
I really like to tinker with recipes. But now my whole world is creating this business and pushing it forward and
That's a
getting
new challenge.
it to the next.
That's the challenge.
Yeah. It's a fun thing to be able to go from, the counter at the retail space and then talking about distribution and how we're going to get our product to the next grocery store or the next opportunity. And the sales aspect right now is really exciting. I like that I'm going to get to go and like get behind and really push my product and present it to different people, different organizations to try and show them what we can do. Part of the mission, right, is making our food more accessible, making vegan products without animal products, right?
Yeah.
More accessible, more available.
Yeah.
Doing that in just one restaurant or one cafe isn't really feasible. It's only to the area,
Yeah.
right? So it's only who can reach the restaurant or the cafe.
Well, let me ask you that in this day, like today, how much are you promoting the fact? And I think it's a little different because you're a bakery, plus. But how much do you promote the fact that you're vegan, as opposed to we just make the most amazing pastries and delectables and so the reason I ask that because with my experience with Plant Burger, we set out like if our business model was opening up a burger restaurant for vegans alone, we would have been out of business like in year one. And I don't mean that to dig to the vegan community or the vegetarian community. There's just not enough of you full vegan vegetarians out there. So we approach. And sometimes we fail at this, but we usually approach it from this is the best burger on the planet for the planet kind of thing, right? Like so, and we're really trying to get some of those consumers that are either curious about plant-based foods, are either being told by their doctors that they need to eat less meat for their cholesterols or what have you. So we're looking to capture that different eating occasion, meaning like I'm perfectly fine if Jason goes to Capitals, and gets a steak on Tuesday. But when he wants his burger, he thinks of us, right? Because he's eating plants, he's getting less calories. So there's a fine line there because your early adopters, obviously, and your big supporters are probably some of the more hardcore vegan people or some of the vegetarians. But then you probably have a slew of a bunch of other customers that just love you, what you do, what your group does, everything that's behind you, and want to support you that may necessarily not be vegan or vegetarian, right?
Most. 90%.
Yeah.
It's the same. We're going for the same group, right?
Yeah.
I didn't create a business for vegans.
Yeah.
I created delicious food, and it gets better and better as there are more and more products available. So it's it's evolving, right? But our goal is also to make the best chocolate chip cookie and the best brownie and the best cupcake, and we want to be the best, and it just so happens to be vegan.
Yes.
Our tagline is, better for you, better for the animals, better for the environment. And it is. It's better for you for all of those reasons. But we also want this to be your first choice for all of the reasons and because it's delicious. Because if it's not delicious, nobody's really going to eat it.
Right.
Like if it's just a cute thing that sits on the counter, like, oh, this is such a great company, but those shoes are so uncomfortable, I can't wear them. Like
right.
that's, Tom's shoes are just fantastic. They're like slippers, right? That's why it works. And it also gives back, right? So
yeah.
like when you're looking at these mission-based companies, you really have to be the best that you can be, because if not, you're doing the entire project a disservice.
Yeah.
Is this the best chocolate chip cookie that you have ever eaten? I don't know, because people are fickle and they'll be like,
yeah.
well, my grandmother really, my
it's
mom.
like pizza.
Yeah, my best favorite cookie
yeah.
is,
yeah.
and like we want to be the absolute best cookie that is possible.
Yeah.
And that is why we don't have certain things on the menu at this point, because we couldn't do it to the quality that we wanted.
Yeah.
It was good enough. It was okay.
Yeah.
But that's not good enough anymore. And the competition out there is insane. So when you're talking about plant-based or you're talking about vegan, people know what that is. I always say open-minded eaters, right? We want the open-minded eaters.
Yeah.
We want everybody who is choosing it for allergy reasons or health reasons, or because they're deciding to go. Remember, Meatless Mondays was a thing, really
yeah.
big thing for a while. And like, it's these like cheese pizza and desserts are the last things that people are going to give up, because it's okay
yeah.
if you're going to really go for it for
yeah.
a birthday cake or for dessert. And then they're going to eat a salad.
Yeah.
Right. Or they're going to eat really, really clean. And then they're going to eat like the one beautiful pastry that they want once a year.
Right.
So this is actually sometimes easier because it's beautiful and fun, but sometimes harder because they're like, if I'm really going to eat something, I'm going to splurge. I'm going to go for it. And I want the butter.
Right.
Right. And my whole point of everything that I do, from when we have the diner to the cafe, is like, but why? Why? Just try it. Go ahead. Because maybe just if you could also like tip the scale
yeah.
a little bit in that area, that might make a small difference as well. So people are going, if people want to eat healthier, if they want to go plant-based, automatically what they think of is like, I'm going to eat salads, I'm going to eat some vegetables, I'm going to eat some really clean meat along with my vegetables, or I'm going to eat some grains and some legumes, and then I'm going to have all my favorite
right.
splurges.
Right. Yeah.
What if all of your splurges,
yes.
like the burgers and the pizza and the sweets, you didn't have to worry about those either?
Yeah.
And you didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
Just what if?
I love it.
So the people eat with their eyes first, right? So if it looks good and it looks like a cookie and it smells like a cookie, they're going to eat it. And then they find out it's vegan. And then they're like, either they're like, oh my God, I couldn't tell. Or they're like, I totally knew it. Like,
yeah,
I
totally.
Tell. but we have been doing this for so long, and we get it a lot with wedding cakes, right?
Yeah.
So I went to this wedding and I had no idea it was your product, and I didn't no idea, like we didn't know that the wedding cake was vegan. Like, who has ever been to a wedding where you are raving about the cake afterwards?
Right.
It's always an afterthought.
Yeah.
It just needs to look beautiful. So when we hear people say like, we were at this cake or at this wedding, the cake was actually delicious, and then we also found out it was vegan. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We love that. We
Not just eating
moments.
fondant. Do you don't use fondant, do you?
We do.
You do? Is there vegan fondant out there?
Yes,
I'm
most
sorry.
fondant is vegan.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm the worst baker in the world. I don't know if you
I
know
see
that.
that.
I don't bake anything.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
you saw that. You saw that quickly. I just want to give. I want to continue eating. Can I eat?
Yeah,
one?
here, have
So some kudos, because I don't think people, listen. This is not like me just trying to like congratulate ourselves or anything like that, but it is kind of that a little bit. But this business is difficult to begin with. All right, we don't have to tell you that. It's tough. We work hard hours. We do all these things, but entering the type of business you're in right now,
And then you have to learn how to use a flow wrapper.
yeah, exactly. But when we talk about supply chain, I went through this with Plant Burger quite a bit. We're still going through it. And I don't think people appreciate how difficult it is to put a delicious product to like a burger, like a plant-based burger that's recognizable to a burger that you've eaten that is not plant-based, and how difficult it is to do, because our supply chain is so small in this plant-based.
So tiny.
It's so tiny. Like there aren't a million different butter companies.
Nope.
You can go. There's one, right, or two, or maybe three. I don't know what it is, right? But usually in this business, for our listeners, is you're having to kind of barter with your purveyors to get the best pricing, and it's kind of that part of the business. It's advantageous to have a plethora of different brands and ingredients that you can kind of, hey, well, this guy's going to charge me $1 less per pound for this meat compared to, and there really isn't.
It's not
much that here
there's no
at
bartering.
all.
I don't ever get to barter.
Yeah, you don't get to. Yeah, exactly. Right.
I mean, maybe with the flour and sugar a little bit, but we're still small. We're still small potatoes. We're still buying in small quantities.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful when places like yours open.
Yeah.
So when people are like, "Oh my God, are you so mad because that plant burger just went into the Whole Foods? It's like four blocks down." I'm like, "No, I'm really psyched because one of the aspects of this model is like, if it doesn't work, then we're doing it a disservice. So I want to attract people. I want other businesses to be attracted to open up in an area where they may not have before, or I want other restaurants to put this on the menu where they may not have even thought about it as financially as an aspect. So when people start to compete with me, and that's right, they are all competing with me now, because I am one of the first. So it's great. I love it. Yes, I want to make sure that I win.
Right.
They don't want them to be better than us.
Right.
But somebody's going to come up with something better than I have thought, right?
Yeah.
And then it's just constantly how we all build.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the supply chain, as soon as somebody else starts offering those burgers, then we can. So we didn't get Beyond Burgers or Impossible Burgers on our menu until Ted's Bulletin did, or until...
Yeah.
I don't know, name another.
Until the price was right.
Right, until another larger restaurant is, because if not, then you're ordering it direct.
Yeah.
And that's just difficult in so many.
Telling us, so I mean, I mean, one of my co-founder of Planet Burger is one of the Beyond Meat guys, and I mean, we weren't getting breaks in prices either, right? And but it's not like we were going to switch to an Impossible Burger or to somebody else's. I mean, the co-founder is one of the guys. So, but what we did end up doing, which was great, is we helped them develop a smash burger. So I don't know if you've tried it. Have you tried the new 4.0 Beyond Meat Smash Burger? I think it's hitting the markets like just now. It's basically a puck. We sell you a puck, and we had them, we had them like weigh, they were given like a 4-ounce burger. We had them take a couple ounces off, but basically it's a puck, and you could smash it on the grill, and it's great. It gets crispy. It's delicious.
Perfect.
They're even starting to put it a little bit. They've listened to the consumers at Beyond Meat a little bit. They're going to a less of the ingredients that they were using and adding more actual ingredients into the burger. So there's more fava bean in it now. I don't know if you've had these new versions that are coming out, but they're really good, and they're meaty, and I
appreciate the aspect of wanting to make the healthy option healthier.
Yeah.
Right. So that you can still go and splurge, and that when you're eating steak or a traditional burger, that you don't feel as bad. But
yeah, because it's not, you shouldn't, because, listen, we have processed foods are going to be here forever because we need to feed a lot of people. Right. And that's growing in numbers. Right. But if we can kind of fix processed foods, right.
Yeah. But when you talk about processed foods, I think that it's kind of a misnomer at this point, because meat is not a non-processed food just because it's an animal. Yeah. So the process to get that animal to the point at which you can slaughter it to become meat, and then the process that it goes to before it gets to your dish, like, it's a highly, highly processed process, and it is so inefficient. So regardless of how you feel about, eating animals on a personal perspective of compassion, right? Like, just the process in which it takes to get that animal onto your plate is excruciatingly difficult.
Big time.
And talk about water. Like, so much water is used to grow that meat, and cleaning warehouses, and then transport. And it is just so inefficient. There's no way that we can continue as a culture.
No,
we can't.
We can't do it. Tell me about this chocolate cake mix.
Chocolate cake.
So
there's water in that too.
There's water in this?
Yeah, but I took water out.
But you took water out.
And then you're going to put it back in.
And then you put it back in.
Yeah.
It's better that they put it in themselves.
It's kind of like the mushroom. So we went to where they grow mushrooms, and except it was chocolate cake, and they grew chocolate cake, and we dehydrated them. But it's all the ingredients that you would use at home to create chocolate cake.
So one and
in
done.
a bag.
In a bag. I love
it.
it. So chocolate cake mix in a bag makes 1 9-inch round cake. I can't wait to make these. Am I going to be able to take this with me?
Yes.
I can't wait to make these. My wife, you're going to make my wife so happy today.
So we
This is
do
the best thing ever.
a line of gluten-free and non-gluten-free options.
You were forced into that
Forced into it.
by those shows that you did.
I mean, it's really, part of what attracts people to us is the allergy aspect, right? So if you have an egg allergy or a dairy allergy, our manufacturing facility is sesame and peanut free. It makes sense that we would offer something that is gluten-free or wheat-free.
Yeah.
And if we call it wheat-free, then people who are gluten-free know. If we call it gluten-free, then people who are wheat-free understand, right? We kind of cover all the bases there.
So this is chocolate. We got a chocolate chip cookie mix. You have a vanilla cake mix. So you're covering all bases there. And then this here is a cookie.
That's our Calvin cookie, and it is named after a cow. His name was Calvin.
Calvin? Is Calvin still around?
Calvin's no longer around.
No longer?
No, he made it to about 8 years, and then he just...
Was he at an animal sanctuary?
He was at an animal sanctuary.
Which one, in Poolsville? Or?
He was at Poolsville, yeah. But I met him at a sanctuary in West Virginia, and he, fell off a truck. I don't know if he actually fell off a truck or...
Yeah.
But just little veal calf that ended up being taken in by the sanctuary, and he got to live his life out as a cow. But they don't make it very long because there's no veterinary care to extend the life of cows other than for consumption.
Yeah.
So he made it to 8, and then he died of what were natural cow causes.
They have one of the largest cows I've ever seen in my life at that Poolsville sanctuary.
Really? But you can go up and pet him and snuggle him and lay down and hang out with him.
Yeah.
Their cows are the most...
That's not...
they're not even mad at us.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, they're not... Actually, I mean... They're like, there's birds that will land on your shoulder there or head, like that animal sanctuary is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a friend that just got married there.
The pigs are a little bit different. Like, pigs are always a little grumpy.
Pigs are always grumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're so agitated.
Yeah.
They're just like, if they don't like the way you smell, they're like, oh my God, why is that person here?
I know,
and then they run away.
I know.
And the cows are like, we still love you. We know that you're
that's why bacon will live on. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there.
Like that, just to punish them for not being cuddly enough.
Yeah, come on, get with it, pigs. If you want to survive, you got to be cuddly.
Yeah, you have to be sweet or nice.
Yeah.
Nice. You can put a bow on the pig. But have you been to Rosie's? Rosie's Animal Sanctuary. She has a really great setup. It's really close to the city. It's very small, and she takes in just enough animals to make sure there's enough for you to cuddle. And I don't know what she does, but those pigs are so sweet.
So sweet.
So cute.
She must mix pour maple over them or something.
I don't know.
Tell me, where can we get these products? What's coming up that we don't know about?
Yeah, so the
Fudge-tastic brownie. Guys, they have everything. I'm just letting stick your fingers. She's going to tell you where to get all this stuff, but this just... I just had a taste of a cookie. It's absolutely delicious.
Yeah, we should probably talk about the products. So Sticky Fingers, we have always been in grocery stores or co-ops, but now we are up and down the East Coast, right?
Okay.
So we have a distributor. I don't just have to drive it around in my car anymore. We'll go out to dinner. My husband will be like, I remember that grocery store. Once I had to drop off cases there. So we've been kind of pushing this for a long time. And we are in grocery stores up and down the East Coast. We are in Whole Foods. We are in Mom's. We are in various small independents. We're in co-ops. We are right now working to get into as many as we can in this area so that the next step is pushing west, south and west.
South and west.
Yep. Grocery stores. World cookie domination. World vegan cookie domination.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I want chocolate chip cookies on every single... We're in Foxtrot.
Foxtrot, good place to be. That's a good place for people to discovery. I mean, I don't know if they push sales. Are you seeing...
We're right at the register.
Right, well, then you're getting sales.
So that was the first product that we came out with were the single serve items, right? So we have single serve chocolate chip cookies, Calvin cookies, and our brownies, and those are the heads of each line.
Yeah.
So we have a cookie line, we have a sandwich cookie line, and we have a bar line. And then from there, we have the mixes. They're really shelf stable. you can make our cakes at home.
Yeah.
Chocolate chip cookies, our sweet and salty cookies, and then this is the next in the new, our 3-packs and 4-packs that go on.
Oh, the
so
3-pack
aisle.
3-pack is
Yeah,
fantastic.
so this is the new lingo, right? So it's the center aisle, right? So
Yeah.
all of your single serves are going at the registers or going at the salad bars, coffee shops areas, right? Coffee service areas, and then we have 3 and 4 packs that are getting. The goal is to get them center aisle. So that's our newest product.
Are you in Whole Foods?
We are in Whole
So you're
Foods, yeah.
Whole Foods, Sprouts?
Not Sprouts yet.
Not yet.
No, but maybe now. Maybe they'll listen to this and be like, we got to get those. some of those
Sprouts, you need to
Sticky
put
Fingers
this
cookies.
3-pack next to our newly discovered 4-pack of Just Iced Tea next to what
That's
a great
right.
combo
we
it would
should.
be.
We should do a table together because they match. Look how cute.
Look how cute
Look
this
at
is.
one, the
Oh,
raspberry.
wow. Wow, look at us. We're just selling
so good at
distributors
this.
right now.
Somebody-
Retailers.
Did we have the same person do our branding? Because the colors are way too close. We have the yellow in there. And then this box is actually our gift box. We ship right to your door. So any of these products, we wrap them a little bit differently. But we also do cupcake kits where it's like frosting and cupcakes.
Yeah.
But any of these products, we can go ahead and put right in this box. ship
Anywhere
right to
in the
your door.
United States.
Anywhere in the United States.
Wow,
Actually,
guys.
also Canada because we've done that too. Just saying.
Guys, Canada folks, you're not left out. You can get all these sticky fingers to your doorsteps, packaged really nicely. Deliciousness. I mean, this is fantastic. I'm so excited for this next chapter of sticky fingers for
Thanks.
you.
Did you go to Expo?
I did. I'm recovering still. Were you there?
No.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Are you going to do it?
Next year?
Yeah.
I'm starting to wring my hands again.
Are you you doing a booth, or are you just going to go visit and take a?
I think I'm gonna do a booth.
It's worth it.
Is it?
Yeah, it's worth it. I saw these cookie girls that were there, and they had like these, like they were all dressed in pink, and they had backpacks, and they were just handing out cookies from their backpacks,
And they didn't have a table there.
and they didn't have it at a table. It's like, you guys,
They cheated.
I was like, you cheated, but I respect for the cheating. But I think you need a table with beautiful packaging like this. You really want to be able to kind of display it. You're going to be able to meet a ton of retailers and
I'm
distributors.
starting to shake just thinking about it. I'm like, oh my god, that's gonna be so hard. And we would have to talk to all these people, and they're gonna have to.
Oh, if you want to, I've done, what have I done now? 6 different expos.
So you would like to come and work at my table at the expo? That would be fantastic.
I would happily come munch on some cookies over there.
It'd be like nothing better to wash that down than this wonderful just
iced tea. Look at this. You know what you're doing. I don't have to tell you. But anytime you do want to sit and chat about Expo West or anything like that, some tips, come to the office and I'll definitely help out however I can.
Yeah. I think that every grocery store in the United States who purchases just iced tea should also get a sample of
100%. We should start including them in the packages. My sample packages. Tell me anything we haven't chatted about. Anything what's your give back? How do you give back other than just to the planet every day? Like, what do you like?
Wow.
What are the things you like? And not to put you on the spot, you don't have to. You do enough.
Yeah,
You feed people. But like, is there, aside from your business and food, I know you're a human being. What are the things you like doing in life? Like, what are you?
I mean, through the business, I love being able to utilize the business to give back to the community in any way possible. So any ask for gift certificates in schools and the local things that are happening, or the work that other people are doing is so inspiring, right? And this is my little arm, like this is my little corner of the little social movement. But I mean, there's so many important things that especially with food, especially with kids, like DC Central Kitchen. Like it's just really important to do whatever you can. Not all of it, and that was my mistake for a long time. Like, I'm going to say yes to everything, and that now I'm just really tired.
Yeah.
But outside of that,
what's your outlet to keep saying? Like, how do you, we know this industry is taxing. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you deal with it?
Like most people, I used to just drink a lot and smoke cigarettes, and then I stopped doing that.
You smoke cigarettes? I would never take you as a cigarette
I
smoker.
did. I smoked lots of them, but I was also athletic, so I really like to jump back and forth. Like, I'm either going to run the stress off, I'm going to bike. I used to race bikes too.
Yeah.
I used to, bike the stress off, and lifting weights right now is really, really fun. And there's a lot of ways that you can give back, especially if you're talking about sport and in the community. Like, it takes everything takes volunteers. So no matter what it is that I like to do, there's some aspect of volunteering that happens.
What kind of bikes are you racing?
I was racing road bikes.
Road bikes, like the skinny little ones.
Skinny little ones where
Yeah.
you fall and break bones. And then I was, and
Like
then
Tour de France style kind of thing.
oh yeah, sure, yeah.
yeah.
Except it was here, and it was mostly in like industrial parks, like riding around in a circle. And you'd win socks.
Yeah,
I'd
okay.
have a lot of socks.
Socks from Ace hardware store.
Ace hardware store, yeah. And that was really fun for a long time. But when I had the restaurant, when the restaurant was up and running and kicking, I couldn't do anything else. Having two businesses and a son and a family, and like trying to hold it all together, it's impossible.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's too much.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy with your new ventures. I think you're on the right track here, and just spreading all this deliciousness to the rest of the United States and parts of Canada is fantastic.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's been such a pleasure to have you on today. I'm so glad my sister kind of put us together. It's
Yeah.
been a long time. I feel like, we need to exchange numbers and just call each other
I always
up.
make that face. I'm like, how have we not hung out and done this before?
I know.
I mean, why hasn't it happened before where you just have me over and ask me questions about myself for an entire
I mean, I've just been waiting for this podcast to be born. In the weeds.
Next time it's my turn. I get to ask you all the questions.
100%. I would be happy to do that. We should go out, grab some dinner.
Can I interview Spike?
Yeah, go. You go ahead.
We're
Ask
going to
anything
just
you
do
want.
In the Weeds next time, and I'm just going to ask you all the questions.
That's right.
You should ask him like 3 questions.
Your mic is not on, sir. You gotta.
I'll give you a little hat nod.
There we go. Head nod.
All right, so
you should
you
ask
said
him 3 questions.
3
right now.
questions.
Yeah, you want to fire, before the close, because I have this little close I do. Before the close, let's rapid fire to Spike Mendelsohn, which is me.
Anything's on the table.
All right, how did you get wrapped up in Beyond Meat?
Between buns, 2 buns, wrap me up. No, my wife is vegan, like I said. She's vegetarian. We don't do vegan vegetarian burgers really at Good Stuff Eatery. We don't do them really well. We had a mushroom burger, but a lot of people get the mushroom burger, and she had been begging me to kind of open up a something that was vegan, and I was on a panel at GW talking for food policy, and Seth Goldman was also on the panel. I didn't know who he was at the time, and typical Spike, I don't really do any research before I go anywhere. Obviously, he had done his. He had brought Beyond Meat and Honest Tea, and he put them in a little cooler underneath my chair on the panel, and he's like, "Hey, I heard you're the Burger King," and he's like, let me know what you think about these. So I took him home, and I cooked them up on the grill, and it was the first time I had ever cooked a Beyond Meat burger. Did that little beet juice bleeding kind of thing. It kind of mimicked. It was still version 1.0, so it wasn't the perfect Beyond like we know today. But it was surprising. A light bulb went off in my head, and I saw the smile on my wife's face when she was eating them, and happy wife, happy life. A little bit. I say I reached out. I reached out to Seth. I was like, I need more of this. Like, I'm shocked on how well it performed, and it only took me that night. I was like, in my mind, I'm a serial entrepreneur, I'd say, and a brand junkie as well, just like the rest of my family. And I said, I think this movement has arrived as far as like the burger space, right? And I was like, well, is there a cheese out there that melts? And I started doing some research. I started getting some ingredients, and sure enough, I created what I would say was a delicious plant burger in my house. That was indulgent, salty, delicious, greasy, all the things you want out of a burger. It wasn't like one of these veggie fall apart burgers or, much of like a Boca burger, falafel burgers. And so I reached out to Seth. I sent him an email. I was like, I'm really impressed. How can I get more involved? I got this idea. Let's do the first ever fast food plant-based burger shop. Not fast casual, fast food. And at the time he was like, didn't know who I was, a little skeptical. And he's like, I don't know, I'm really busy with Beyond Meat. He's like, but we'd love to get you involved in cooking some recipes. So at that point, no contract, I had started developing some recipes for Beyond Meat. I launched their burgers in a couple different markets. I helped them network with some chefs.
And they're originally from this area.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you run in the same circles at all?
I didn't run in the same circles at all with them, not even the closest. And then shortly after that, like a budding relationship with Seth and I started happening. I launched their Beyond Sausage when that came to market at Whole Foods. And then kind of being the guy that I am, like I usually do a lot of people always say I'm kind of crazy, and but I do a lot of work for free when I'm interested in something, a problem, I just show up. It's like, give me an opportunity, I'll show you what I'm kind of made.
Good to know.
Yeah, exactly. So I had this relationship with Seth for over a year, that was just, not transactional whatsoever. And when the time came right for him, he was stepping down from Beyond Meat. He wanted to get back into he's still the chair of the board, but he wanted to get back in startup mode. He reached out and said, hey, this idea of with plant burgers, he's like, of this thought process of, why don't we open up in Whole Foods, in these kiosks? I was like, oh, that sounds like it has a little merit. So sure enough, we opened up our first plant burger in Silver Spring, Maryland. We were doing like $6,000 a square foot. And it went gangbusters. Whole Foods got super excited. And the rest is history. I mean, COVID hit a few months later, but that was advantageous for us. We were able to open up 10 more locations during COVID, which was really lucky for us because the whole world was shutting down and closing. But Whole Foods was deemed an essential business, and their hot food buffet area went out of business overnight. So that was like millions and millions of dollars, just no revenue. And here we were, this shiny little plant-based burger, cranking it out. And so, yeah, they said, hey, we have 10 more locations we can open right now. And so we started doing it. Yeah. So, there's some headwinds we're against now in the plant-based space.
Mm-hmm.
There's big monies come in to kind of, they see, how dairy was affected by all these plant-based milks and the success of plant-based milks. And you have these big, huge meat companies that are lobbying against it. Again, I'm a flexitarian. I believe in balance is where I want to be, but that's how I kind of got involved with Beyond.
Wow.
That's question number one.
Question number two is how is these are the these are important.
These
questions.
are good. Yeah, we should do this more often.
Question number two is how are you dealing with all the lashback, like all that kickback, right? So we people don't. It's another it's a media. What's the right term for it? It's like people are paying attention to it, and so they hear it, and so then they'll say things like, "Well, I hear all these burgers are bad for you now."
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah, you got to weather the storm. We are setting out to be the best with Plant Burger. We're setting out to be the best burger for the planet, by the planet, all that kind of stuff. We're, definitely, trying to market the product, with a wider scope in mind than just vegans or vegetarians. It's something we've always done, but sometimes we fall into the trap of leaning into like our early adopters more than we should. And then with the backlash with all the health stuff, which is what really took a huge hit for headwinds, is that, we had to wait for these studies to come out and prove everyone wrong, right? So most recently there was a documentary out there that just came out talking about plant-based meat specifically compared to regular meats. It came out very favorable for what we're doing. But again, not everybody watches that. I think, we just got to wait it out, trial. I really believe in my core that there is a huge future for these types of businesses. I think you have a more, I think you're going to get there faster than a plant-based burger restaurant will, because you're dealing with sweets and deliciousness and the cookie, and a cookie. And I think, a burger is a little bit hard to wrap around, like it's a plant-based burger. So, I think we're going to have a little bit more of a difficult time getting there. But
it's a much larger aspect of the market. So like desserts are notoriously like between 4 and 11% of whether you're looking at grocery stores or whether you're looking at restaurants of what sells, right? So I'm less of a risk to take. Yeah. But the hurdle that you have to get over is so much bigger. Yes. Right? But you have so much more room to grow. Yeah. Like there's so much more people in your area.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're 100% right on that one. And the other thing I'll say is that, we're not doing this without having failures, meaning like, we're going to close 2 stores in the New York area. We had this grand idea, we were all drinking our own Kool-Aid and we're like, oh, this is crazy. This future's here. And we opened all these 3 plant burgers, our first brick and mortars in New York City. And we opened 3 and clustered them, just like how a Starbucks would or a KFC. We did like this cluster, and no, that didn't work, right? There's not that many. Yeah, there's not that many people. So, sometimes you have to take a few steps back to take 10 steps forward, if you will. So we're in that stage. You just got to be kind of patient, look at the market, consolidate your menus at times, and just and as long as you're putting delicious food, back to what you said, if it's delicious, which it is, you'll survive, and then everything we want to happen will happen. So
Riding those waves.
It's the wave. It's the roller coaster ride of. This is why we call this the In the Weeds podcast, because you're always in the weeds trying to figure what the fucking do next.
And you never know if it was the right move.
You
until
never know.
after.
Yeah, exactly.
So hindsight is 20/20 for a reason.
Yeah.
You don't know until it's after the fact, and then you're like, oh, but if you had gone a different way, who knows what would have happened?
Yeah.
That can be the next podcast. Then when I ask you all the questions of why closing isn't failing, and why sometimes you have to get smaller to get bigger.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing here. And my last question for you is, I haven't thought about this.
Okay. Got some time.
What's your favorite dessert? What do you want to see veganized?
What do I want to see veganized? I'll tell you what my favorite dessert is, and I'm sure you'd be able to veganize it. But it's a strawberry shortcake roll.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I mean, that hits me with all the memories in my childhood memories, and it's just I just love it.
I'm on it.
So you make me a vegan strawberry shortcake roll next time we see each other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, perfect! I love it.
I brought you strawberry Danish, and I didn't even know that.
I know, and I loved it, and I'm gonna eat the rest of it tonight with the
There's
tea.
2.
I know, there'll be one by the time I get home. All right, guys. Thank you for coming. We're just gonna do some outs right now. Got that music. Guys, thank you everyone for joining us on this captivating episode of In the Weeds podcast. A heartfelt appreciation goes out once again to our guest chef, Doron Petersan, for joining us today. For more information about Sticky Fingers Bakery, visit www.stickyfingersbakery.com. A special shout out goes to our fantastic sponsors, Just Iced Tea and We the Pizza. Discover the refreshing taste of Just Iced Tea at eatthechange.com and satisfy your pizza cravings with We the Pizza at wethepizza.com. You will not regret it. And a huge thank you goes out to our broadcast home, DC Central Kitchen, for their unwavering support. They're not just serving up food, they're serving up real change. Learn more and get involved at dccentralkitchen.org. To catch up on past episodes or subscribe to future ones, head over to intheweedspod.com, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. The kitchen may be closed for now, but the conversation never stops. We are 86 for now. Until next time.